Chapter 465. At the entrance of the precious blood steps, the crowd was surging. All of them rushed out as they were afraid that they would be trapped and killed if they were a step slower. In the past, every single time the treasured blood drop plains closed, there would always be examples of cultivators being trapped within it and perishing. Thus, no one dared to stay any longer. Even Lin Sun and Lian Die rushed out. Whoosh! However, as soon as they walked out of the precious blood steps, a spear shot towards them, and it swept towards Lian Die. Lian Die seemed to be prepared. She waved her hand, and a wisp of colorful light surged out, dispelling the attack. Then, she flashed to the side. There were too many cultivators here. If they fought, not only would it affect others, it would also make it difficult for them to fight. "Little handsome boy, this way." Lian Die called out to Lin Sun as she rushed forward. "Want to leave? Stay." A loud shout resounded, and the spear shot over again. With a flash of light, it turned into a sky full of spear shadows that enveloped Lian Die and Lin Sun. It was a man in golden armor. He had a murderous expression, and his aura was like the sun. There was no need to guess. It was Bai Yu, the heir of the demon-suppressing clan. Lin Sun had intended to separate from Lian Die after leaving the precious blood steps, but he didn't expect to be suppressed as soon as he walked out. This caused his face to darken, and he punched out. With a loud bang, the spear shadows were shattered and turned into a rain of light. At the same time, Lian Die shouted. Her body was enshrouded in colorful light, and a beam of light shot out from her hand, forcing Bai Yu back. Swoosh swoosh, she and Lin Sun rushed into the distance. "Leave the treasure behind and I'll spare your life." A graceful figure suddenly appeared in front of them. She was wholly like a fairy, beautiful and extraordinary, and blue lightning flickered between her slender fingers. Yun Yao, the heir of Heavenly Mountain, Ling Xinyuo. Lian Die's expression changed, and she rushed to the other side. "Little handsome boy, they plan to stop us here. Please help me escape, and we'll share the Luoho secret treasure," Lian Die said. There was no need to guess at all. Lin Sun knew that everything that happened in front of him must be aimed at Lian Die. Lin Sun couldn't help but hesitate. He didn't want to get involved in this mess again. However, before he could refuse, Bai Yu, who was like a god of war, had already charged over once more. His golden armor glowed, his pike was like lightning, and his divine might was matchless. Boom! Lian Die went up, and the rainbow light in her palm turned into a waterfall to resist the white feather. "Little handsome, hurry up and do it. If we are surrounded by them, neither of us will be able to escape." Lian Die transmitted her voice anxiously. Lin Sun opened his mouth and was about to say something. On the other side, an ancient sword broke through the air, clanging like a dragon's roar, wrapped in bright Taoist light, and rushed to Lin Sun. This caused Lin Sun's face to darken. He didn't want to fight, but these people obviously treated him as Lian Die's companion and wanted to kill him together. Boom! Lin Sun's whole body burst out like a furnace. Light cyan glow spread all over his body. He punched out and collided with the ancient sword. The sound of metal colliding resounded in the field. The ancient sword was shaken to the point of buzzing, but it didn't hurt Lin Sun. A soft exclamation of surprise resounded from afar, and then a handsome young man in Taoist robes who emanated the aura of treasures flashed over. Yun Ku, the successor of the Spirit Sword sect. "Demonis, let's see where you can escape to this time." Almost at the same time, a loud roar resounded, and a black-robed young man who looked like an ape god appeared. He was full of killing intent, and he appeared in the field. It was Yuan Zhan, the successor of the Blood God sect. On the other side, Tai Qianhan, the successor of the Interstellar Taoist sect, who was majestic like a mountain, strode over with an iron rod on his shoulder. In addition, there were also some successors of ancient sects who were not inferior to Ling Xinyuo, Yun Ku, Bai Yu, and Yuan Zhan, and they also rushed over. The scene suddenly became extremely murderous and terrifying. Originally, countless practitioners rushed out of the precious blood plains and gathered in this area. As the battle broke out here, it immediately caused a lot of uproar and exclamations, and they all moved away to make space, because they could see that this battle was not simple. All the participants were peerless geniuses with extremely terrifying background. Now, although they didn't join hands, they all pointed their spears at Lianjie, the successor of the spiritual land of innumerable transformations, which shocked many people. Obviously, in the precious blood plains, Lianjie must have done something great to suffer such treatment. What surprised everyone most was that there was a person beside Lianjie who suffered a blow. It was a handsome young man with deep black eyes and a rather extraordinary temperament, who seemed a little strange. This young man was Lin Sun. The reason why he was not recognized was that although he had been fighting continuously before, his clothes were tattered and stained with blood, and he looked miserable, and his aura was cold and iron-blooded. But now, he had condensed a new spiritual vein, which made his whole body transform and put on clean clothes. His whole person seemed to have been reborn, and he was in high spirits, which made people dare not recognize him. The battle broke out in chaos, causing a crowd of practitioners to stay away from it. Lin Sun's face and mood were very bad. As soon as he left the precious blood plains, he was besieged by a group of unknown guys who didn't give him a chance to explain. What annoyed Lin Sun most was that these guys were ruthless and decisive in their actions, which was intolerable to him. Did they really think he was easy to bully? Enough! With a bang, Lin Sun exerted the 9 strikes of shaking heaven. His fist force superimposed the 4 forces of gravity, crushing the void and shattering all the attack. When did I provoke you? Why don't you let me go? Lin Sun's black eyes were cold. He glanced around. His breath was like an abyss, with a disdainful momentum that could swallow the sky. This shocked many practitioners. This guy's momentum was so strong. You are obviously the same as that demon girl. You deserve to be killed. Little killing god by you, snorted coldly. He regarded Lin Sun as a prey. As he spoke, the spear in his hand danced and chopped down with great force. The void was crushed, which was extremely horrifying. You can only blame yourself for being a companion of the demon girl. Even if you are killed, you can't blame anyone. On the other side, Yuan Zhan sneered. His figure was like an ape demon, full of blood and qi, and the wind from his palm was overbearing. There were many people besieging Lin Sun, not only the 2 of them, but also the descendants of some old sections. Lianjie next to Lin Sun was in a similar situation. Looking down from the void, one could see that the 2 of them were surrounded in the center, and there were influential figures in all directions. If it were other practitioners, they would have been killed on the spot. The gap was too big, and they were outnumbered. The chance of winning was slim. Boom! This area was filled with various colors of light, smashing the rocks and cracking the earth, which shocked everyone present. Soon, Lianjie's pretty face turned pale. Her shoulder was hit by a blue thunderbolt cast by Ling Xinuo. Flesh and blood burst out, and she was injured. Everyone could see that Lianjie would die sooner or later. There was no possibility of a counterattack. Similarly, the young man by her side was bound to die as well, and it was impossible for him to survive the attacks of so many top experts. Lin Sun's killing intent instantly appeared when he saw Lianjie was injured. He was clearly aware that if he didn't go all out, then it would be impossible for the matter to end peacefully. But right at this moment, Lianjie suddenly said, "Handsome boy, didn't you want to comprehend the profundities of the Rahu's secret technique? Take it and leave." As she said, she threw out a piece of white horn and threw it to Lin Sun. The Rahu's secret technique. Everyone was shocked when they heard this. Their eyes turned red and their breathing quickened. They finally understood why Lianjie would be besieged. It turned out that she had obtained the secret technique of the Rahu Demon King in the precious Bloodfall Plains. All the geniuses that besieged Lianjie were slightly surprised. They hadn't expected that Lien Ye would actually give up the Rahu's secret technique at such a critical moment. Moreover, they recognized that the horn's aura was vast and obscure. It was absolutely not a fake horn, but the true horn of the Rahu Demon King. However, Lin Sun's heart jerked when he held the white horn in his hand, and he realized that the situation wasn't good. Even if Lien Ye wanted to give this treasure to him, there was no need for her to shout it out loud, right? "Kid, hand it over." Looks like this kid really does have an extraordinary relationship with the seductress. Kill this kid first. At this moment, the gazes of Ling Xinyuo, Tai Qianhan, Yun Ku, and the other experts that were attacking Lien Ye had locked onto Lin Sun. Rumble. The battle continued. But at this moment, the main force of the attacks was concentrated on Lin Sun. In an instant, the pressure Lin Sun faced increased abruptly, and his expression changed slightly. He finally realized that something was off. Lien Ye was obviously tricking him. "Everyone, I've handed over the secret technique. If all of you continue to obstruct and pursue me, then don't blame me for starting a slaughter." Lien Ye's figure transformed into an expanse of dazzling multicolored light. Rumble. She actually forcefully tore open a path and fled into the distance. Some people wanted to chase after her, but in the end, they held back because the Luoho's secret technique had already fallen into Lin Sun's hands. It was obviously not worth it to chase after Lien Ye. The others obviously thought so too. Although they were furious at Lien Ye's departure, they ultimately chose to stay and deal with Lin Sun. "Little handsome boy, don't be mean. In order to save my life, I can only do this. But I'll give you the Luoho secret technique. If you die, don't resent me." Lien Ye's bell-like laughter resounded in the distance. It was extremely charming, and carried a sense of complacency. As expected, he was tricked. Lin Sun sighed in his heart. He already knew that this woman was not to be trifled with, but he didn't expect her to be so cunning. "You're willing to give it up? You don't want the Luoho inheritance anymore?" Lin Sun's voice was like thunder. But this time, Lien Ye replied with a smile. "Oh, I forgot to tell you that the Luoho secret technique is actually a treasure map, not an inheritance at all. I've already comprehended it and understood it. Unfortunately, those guys definitely won't believe it, so, you can only suffer. Of course, you can also hand it over. Perhaps you can exchange it for your life. Why didn't you trick others but me?" Lin Sun gritted his teeth in hatred and felt rather aggrieved. "Well, this is very simple. Who asked you to refuse me when I asked you to cooperate with me? I'm a woman, and I bear grudges the most." Lien Ye chuckled. Her voice was charming and carried an indescribable complacency, but it quickly disappeared. Lin Sun's face became extremely ugly. Just because of a single refusal, she schemed against him? This woman was really ruthless. But Lin Sun didn't have time to think too much. He was alone, and he was being besieged from all directions. Those people could be called geniuses, and they were famous and powerful. They wanted to kill him and seize the Luoho's secret technique. Chapter 466. In this world, the descendants of many ancient orthodoxies, such as Ling Xinyuo of Heavenly Cloud Mountain, Tai Qianhan of Star Silence Taoism, Yun Ku of Spirit Sword Sect, and Yuan Zhan of Blood God Sect, each and every one of them was different, but they all had shocking auras. They were like the peaks of the Sea of Soul's realm, their power shooting up into the sky. This was a situation that could make any practitioner tremble. It was like a dead chess game. If one didn't have the power beyond Sea Spirit realm, he was doomed to be unable to overturn the chessboard and escape. The battle broke out. Blazing light rumbled and various secret methods interweaved, which made Lin unable to raise his head. This scene shocked all the people present. For the Luoho secret method, the descendants of many ancient orthodoxies were attracted to fight for it. That boy was really miserable. Perhaps this was the saying that an innocent man would get into trouble because of his wealth. Without enough strength, even if he had a good fortune, he couldn't occupy it. Hey, something's wrong. That boy is strange. He hasn't been suppressed until now. How is this possible? As time went by, someone soon exclaimed that although Lin Sun was besieged and in a dangerous situation, he hadn't fallen down until now, which was incredible. That was a group of peerless figures. But the boy was still able to hold on until now, which was really a little special. Look, his body movement is very mysterious. It's like an ice dragon, unpredictable and unpredictable. He can actually avoid many killing moves in a small space. Some experienced people could see the mystery at a glance and couldn't help but be surprised. Humph. Even though that young man's movement technique is profound, this isn't the main point. The main point is that those geniuses that besieged him fought for themselves and were wary and vigilant towards each other, causing them to leave behind too many flaws. That's why that kid seized the opportunity to catch his breath. A strong practitioner of Tao Insight Realm analyzed and pointed out the key point. Sure enough, many practitioners also noticed at this time that in order to fight for the Luoho secret treasure, although those geniuses were besieging Lin Sun, they would always be disturbed when they launched their killing move. Obviously, no one wanted to let others get the treasure first. In this way, the boy found many opportunities to struggle. And as the battle continued, this fear and contradiction became more and more intense. Clang! Yun Ku waved the ancient sword with pine patterns and rushed to Lin Sun first. However, at the same time, Tai Qianhan's iron rod swept out horizontally like a mountain, and it forced Yun Ku to have no choice but to retreat while revealing a shocked and furious expression. But at the same time, when Tai Qianhan was about to kill Lin Sun, White Feather on the other side waved his spear to attack Lin Sun. In this way, Tai Qianhan was also covered by his attack. This sort of mutually restraining and mutually destroying battle caused the geniuses to be furious in their hearts, and they glared angrily at each other. Tai Qianhan, you're going too far. Humph, everyone can fight for this Luoho secret treasure, why can't I? Yuan Zhan, if you dare play any more tricks, I'll be the first to kill you. Ling Xinyuo, what do you mean? Shouts rang out incessantly as the prodigies berated and criticized each other, causing the scene to seem extremely bustling. All the cultivators in the distance were dumbstruck by this scene. This was truly chaotic. If it was just a single genius that made a move, then perhaps that genius would have killed that youth a long time ago and wouldn't have caused so much trouble. But this time, those who made a move were all descendants of different ancient orthodoxies, and there was no lack of enemies among them. Moreover, they were all proud and conceited, and couldn't tolerate being beaten by others, so this battle was forcibly turned into a mess by them. That kid is really lucky. Everyone wants to be the first to kill him and seize the Luoho secret treasure, but they are restrained by others and can't succeed, so this kid can temporarily save his life. Save his life? Not necessarily. There's not much chance left for him to struggle. Accidents can happen at any time, and he's destined to be unable to escape today. Yes, none of those prodigies will give him a chance to escape. Everyone was talking about it, and none of them was optimistic about Lin Sun. At this time, Lin Sun's face was extremely ugly. Not only was he tricked by Liandie once, but now he was regarded as a prey by these guys, and they all wanted to kill him and take the Luoho horn. This was too much bullying. However, Lin Sun had been enduring, looking for opportunities to use Ice Drake steps and constantly dodge. It seemed that he was being suppressed, but in fact, he had been testing the strength of those opponents. Knowing one's friend, was the key to victory in 100 battles. Most importantly, Lin Sun was angry and aggrieved, and he was really angry. He was waiting for an opportunity to teach these guys an unforgettable lesson. Guys, we can't go on like this. Why don't we each take a step back and discuss a countermeasure? Let's kill this kid first, and then decide who the Luoho secret treasure belongs to. What do you think? Suddenly, a man in a silver robe spoke. His face was devilishly pale, and his name was Lu Ping. He was from the ancient pantheon of demons. Okay. I think it's feasible. Immediately, the eyes of the strong cultivators flickered, and in the end, they all took a step back and agreed. They stopped fighting for the time being, but surrounded Lin Sun in different directions in this area. Obviously, they had realized that a scuffle like the previous one would only make the situation more chaotic and bring about many variables. Kid, we'll give you a chance. Leave the Luoho secret treasure, and we can let you go, someone said coldly. His whole body was shrouded in a black fog, and it was eerie and frightening. The whole area was in an uproar. They didn't expect that someone would make such a suggestion after a short pause in the battle, which was tantamount to giving the young man a chance to live. This kid is really lucky. Many people couldn't help sighing with emotion. They believed that Lin Sun would hand over the Luoho secret treasure without hesitation in order to save his life in such a situation. Ling Xinyuo, Tai Qianhan, and the others all looked at Lin Sun. Obviously, they also agreed with this proposal. In their view, the Luoho secret treasure was obviously more important than Lin Sun. If Lin Sun admitted defeat and lowered his head, they wouldn't mind letting him go and keeping his life. But for Lin Sun, this proposal made him feel even more aggrieved. Previously, they had been fighting and killing him, treating him as prey and attacking him mercilessly. But now, they were acting high and mighty, asking him to lower his head and give him a chance to live. What did they take Lin Sun for? They deserved to die. With this in mind, Lin Sun glanced at the crowd and said, I also have a proposal. If you apologize to me one by one and leave behind an ancient treasure as an apology, I can let bygones be bygones and let you go safely. What do you think? His voice was flat, but it fell clearly into the ears of everyone present. The whole area was stunned and fell into a strange silence. What did this kid say? Was he courting death? They had obviously given him a chance to live, but instead of being grateful, he provoked all the talents present. Wasn't he courting death? He's too arrogant. This kid obviously doesn't want to live anymore. Someone shouted. The faces of those geniuses also turned cold. They were all very surprised. They didn't expect to hear such a reckless answer from Lin Sun. Are you courting death? Don't test our patience. Leave behind the Luoho secret treasure and get lost. Lu Ping, the future leader of the pantheon of demons, shouted. Many people trembled. Lu Ping's power was too strong. His voice was like a clap of thunder, making their hair stand on end. Lin Sun smiled brightly and pointed at Lu Ping. He said, because of what you said, you'll be the first one to be killed later. You're courting death. Lu Ping flew into a rage. His whole body was surging with demonic light. He was a three-tailed silver-armored scorpion. He was extremely talented and was a dazzling genius among monster cultivators. Don't fight, let me kill this boy. After I kill him, we can decide who the Luoho artifact belongs to. Yuan Zhan's killing intent surged as he walked out. He took a step forward, causing the void to crack. His aura was incomparably violent. His silhouette was like a demonic ape, suppressing everyone to the point of suffocation. Ha, friend, why seek your own death? You're only in your teens. If you were to die here for this Luoho artifact, wouldn't it be a pity? Yunko grinned as he spoke, and his voice revealed a strand of pity. It seems like none of you agree with my suggestion. Lin Sun's smile grew brighter. For no rhyme or reason, Yunko frowned and felt that something was off in his heart. This kid was too calm. The spectators in the distance were also bewildered. Had that youth gone mad? Why was his words so unrestrained? Was he really not afraid of death? What's the point of saying so much? Let me first slaughter this little bastard who doesn't know the immensity of heaven and earth. With a roar, a golden figure rushed out and waved his fist. It was masculine and domineering, carrying with it an endless amount of spiritual power that surged like a vast ocean. Everyone's expression changed, because the person who attacked was a descendant of the ancient orthodoxy, Skyscraper Ridge. His name was Jingqi, and he had already reached the complete Sea of Souls realm several years ago. He possessed a unique innate attribute, and his strength was absolutely terrifying. Boom! The heaven and earth shook. Jingqi was exceptionally fierce and domineering. As his fist smashed down, golden flames poured down like a heavenly river. Lin Sun met the attack with a fist as well. The fist force was like a python, rumbling as it soared into the sky. It was just as spectacular. This strike caused even the void to tremble. It was too powerful, and the spiritual power shot out like lava, covering the entire area. This brat was actually this powerful as well? Many people were shocked. Previously, Lin Sun was being suppressed by a group of geniuses, and they were unable to see through his strength. But now that he made a move, they immediately discovered that this youth was not simple either. Boom! An earth-shattering collision sound resounded through the 9 heavens. When the smoke and dust dispersed, Lin Sun stood where he was without moving. What was shocking was that Jingqi, who had already dominated a region and was like a young overlord, retreated more than 10 steps. One of his arms was trembling, and the webbing between his thumb and index finger was cracked, with blood flowing out. What? Jingqi, this domineering and terrifying young genius, was actually at a disadvantage in a single strike? The crowd was shocked. Jingqi's eyes widened, and golden light surged all over his body. He looked at Lin Sun with a shocked expression, only now realizing that Lin Sun was not as weak as he had imagined. In fact, Lin Sun was also shocked. He had just advanced, and he possessed a new spiritual vein. His body had undergone a complete transformation, and he had already reached the unprecedented limit of the Sea of Souls realm. He could easily kill a Sea of Souls realm cultivator with a single move. But he did not expect that Jingqi was also so powerful, and was merely injured. If it were anyone else, that punch would definitely destroy half of their life. Not bad. Being able to block my punch, you can be considered a top-notch figure. Lin Sun commented calmly. Chapter 467. I'll kill you! Jingqi roared and brandished a snow-white halberd at Lin Sun. This great halberd is not bad. Take it as an offering to atone for your sins. Lin Sun performed the ice drake steps and clenched his 5 fingers into a fist, which emitted a bright light and performed the mystery of 9 strikes for shaking heaven. Bang! The power of the 4 superimposed fists rumbled, smashing the halberd until it buzzed and trembled, erupting with resplendent light. The entire audience was overwhelmed with shock. This brat's strength was actually so tyrannical. Kill! Jingqi shouted, his long hair flying in the wind. He was really angry and fought with Lin Sun. Strong winds wreaked havoc here, the sounds of battle deafening, incomparably dazzling. There were shocking fluctuations that spread through the 9 heavens, 10 earth. To be able to force Jingqi to use his true strength, this kid is quite impressive. Ling Xinyuo, Yun Ku, Tai Qianhan, and the others stood in all directions, watching coldly from the sidelines. However, after dozens of collisions, Lin Sun's body suddenly shone, and his fist force suddenly rose. With a bang, the halberd was shaken away. Furthermore, the fist force smashed into Jingqi's chest with unstoppable force. Boom! Jingqi coughed up blood as he was sent flying. There was a terrifying fist imprint on his chest, and blood flowed out. One could clearly see that there was a heart-protecting mirror artifact there, and it was currently buzzing. It was obvious that the heart protection mirror had neutralized the punch. Otherwise, Jingqi's heart would have been shattered and he would have died on the spot. Everyone gasped in shock. They were unable to imagine that this young man would actually be so ferocious in a one-on-one battle, and even a figure like Jingqi was forcefully suppressed by him. Even those geniuses who looked on indifferently couldn't help but narrow their eyes, as if they were seeing Lin Sun again. Whoosh! Without stopping at all, Lin Sun flashed towards Jingqi Dai. A ray of sword chi suddenly appeared out of thin air and stabbed Lin Sun's back. The sword intent was brilliant and incomparably fierce. Another prodigy moved. He was dressed in a blue robe and held a white jade sword in his hand. His bearing was elegant, but the power of his sword Dao was extremely terrifying. Boom! Lin Sun waved his sleeves, and a terrible wind swept out, shattering the sword Qi. With this delay, Jing Qi had already escaped from the arena and was protected by a group of attendants and guards. The successor of an ancient sect only knows how to sneak attack? Lin Sun's cold eyes swept over the young man in blue like lightning. Boom! His figure disappeared into thin air as he punched out. At this time, Lin Sun's black hair was flying in the air. His body was as deep as an abyss, and his qi was surging like a storm. He was like a devil who was going to devour the mountains and rivers. The blue-clothed young man was also an extraordinary figure. His name was Donglin, and his fame spread far and wide. His sword qi was dense and experienced, and it was extraordinary. However, what shocked everyone was that after merely a few dozen moves, the blue-clothed young man was beaten to the point of coughing up blood, and he repeatedly retreated and dodged. The whole audience was in an uproar, and the sound of people gasping could be heard. This young man was simply too strong. Defeating Jing Qi with his bare hands was already shocking enough, but now, he was once again suppressing He Donglin in a domineering manner. Who was he? Ling Xinyuo, Tai Qianhan, Yun Ku, Yuan Zhan, Bai Yu, Lu Ping, and the other geniuses' eyes flickered. They really didn't know Lin Sun, and they had never even seen this boy before. It was only today that they saw him with Liandye. But it was obvious that Liandye had used him as a scapegoat. This made them think that this young man was insignificant, and at best, a cannon fodder by Liandye's side. But who would have thought that this young man was also a hidden expert? Defeating Jing Qi and suppressing He Donglin with his bare hands. This alone proved how extraordinary this young man was, and he was not weaker than them at all. However, who was he? Why had they never heard of him before? This is not bad. Using this person to eliminate some competitors, it will be much easier to fight for the Luoho secret method. Yun Ku's mind turned and he looked on coldly. Not only him, but the others present also had similar thoughts. Jing Qi was already heavily injured, and He Donglin was about to be defeated. It could be said that although Lin Sun's performance was stunning, he had unknowingly helped them eliminate their competitors. This was naturally excellent. Kill! He Donglin's face was livid. Being easily suppressed by Lin Sun in front of everyone's eyes almost drove him crazy, and his heart was filled with humiliation. His sword qi was as dense as a waterfall, crisscrossing and shattering the clouds. What he displayed was an ancient sword scripture. Boom! Lin Sun's figure whistled, and like a peerless demon god, he displayed the 9 strikes for shaking heaven. For the first time, he displayed the 5 superimposed punches: Mountain Splitter, Soul Shatter, Void Refinement, and Python Dragon. The 5 superimposed moves created a myriad of strange phenomena. The fist force was furious, and there were phenomena such as collapsing mountains, breaking seas, annihilating souls, refining the void, and so on. This was too terrifying. As soon as it was displayed, it shocked everyone present, causing many practitioners to turn pale, and their hearts to tremble uneasily. What kind of punches was this? Which ancient orthodoxy did it come from? Some strong practitioners in Tao Insight realm were also shocked. Judging by this power alone, it was obvious that the punches were an unparalleled inheritance. This young man's origin was very likely to be extraordinary. Rumble! The dense sword qi was crushed into pieces, and it turned into a rain of light. It was unable to resist at all, and it was like fragile glass. He Donglin couldn't help screaming and flashed to avoid it. But the fist force covered all directions, making it impossible for him to avoid it. In the end, he was crushed by the fist force. All his bones were broken, his skin was bleeding, and he screamed. He was blown away more than 30 meters away and almost died. Child! Young master! Some servants and guards rushed out and caught He Donglin. They were all shocked and angry. "Young man, you're courting death," a man in Tao Insight Realm shouted. He was He Donglin's retainer. How could he remain indifferent when he saw this? "Friend, this is a duel for the Luoho secret method. Let those young people solve it. We old guys don't need to get involved." Suddenly, a majestic voice sounded faintly. Everyone immediately recognized that it was an extremely famous man in Tao Insight Realm from Yunyao Mountain. "Yes, if you lose, you lose. If you want to take revenge, it's not too late to take action after the ownership of the Luoho secret method is decided." Some other overmatches in Tao Insight Realm also spoke out. Suddenly, the overmatches in Tao Insight Realm beside He Donglin changed their faces, but they finally restrained themselves. Everyone could see that the reason why these overmatches in Tao Insight Realm spoke out was not to help Lin Sun, but because they didn't want this duel to be ruined by others, so that the descendants of their orthodoxies could seize the opportunity to compete for the Luoho secret method. "This guy is finished. Even if his fighting capacity is superior and he can eventually suppress the crowd, how can he survive with these overmatches in Tao Insight Realm?" Many people sighed with emotion. In the field, Lin Sun stood alone. His black eyes were like lightning. He saw everything in his eyes and naturally knew his situation. However, he was not afraid at all. He was holding back a fire in his heart and needed to vent it. "Who else? Or should I say, all of you together?" Lin Sun glanced around. He was alone in the void, unarmed, but he could stand upright in the void. His whole body was outstanding and his power was boundless. This shocked many people. Not to mention other things, few of his peers could compare with this young man in terms of courage. "Friend, you are alone. Are you going to challenge all of us?" Lu Ping walked out with a strange and pale face, looking indifferent. "Who do you think you are? How dare you be my friend?" Lin Sun chuckled, full of disdain. "Tell me your name. I don't kill nameless people." Lu Ping's face suddenly became gloomy, and his momentum became terrifying. "I told you, you don't deserve it." Lin Sun stared at him with his deep black eyes. The powerful momentum in his body spread out, making the void roar. His words were confident and domineering, completely fearless. "Go to hell!" Lu Ping shouted. He couldn't stand it anymore. He rushed out and took out a fiery red iron hook. With a swish, he chopped at the void. Boom! The battle started again. It was fierce and terrible. In the void, the fiery red iron hook chopped at the void, stirring up the wind and clouds. This was an ancient secret method, unpredictable and extremely frightening. It had to be said that Lu Ping was really strong. As the descendant of the pantheon of demons, he was even stronger than He Donglin and Jing Qi. Otherwise, how could he dare to stand out and fight with Lin Sun at this time? Unfortunately, his opponent this time was Lin Sun. Boom! After a moment, Lin Sun's eyes were as cold as lightning. He took a step forward, and the ice dragon soared into the sky. Clouds and mist were everywhere, covering the whole area. At the same time, he raised his hand. His fist was shining brightly, and it directly collided with the fiery red iron hook. The fist energy was surging, bursting out with a pale blue divine light. Instantly, Lu Ping coughed up blood. His body was shaking, which shocked everyone. Even Lu Ping was not a match for that young man. Swish! However, when Lu Ping was dodging, a red hook dashed out at high speed, reached Lin Sun, and pierced through his protective force. It was a scorpion tail, which had been inside Lu Ping's body. When he was dodging, it unexpectedly swept out. Silver-armored scorpion tail. It can break the Gangqi. Once hit, the divine soul will be destroyed. Someone exclaimed. Lu Ping was from the pantheon of demons, and he was a three-tailed silver-armored scorpion cultivator. Obviously, he was desperate in this attack. Lin Sun was also surprised, but he didn't panic. The spiritual vein in his chest shone, releasing a holy aura. The aura turned into a storm vortex, forming a terrible force that distorted the void. Crack! Under everyone's horrified gaze, the scorpion tail, which was the sharpest and looked like a secret treasure, was minced into pieces by a blazing vortex before it could pierce into Lin Sun's body. Ah! Lu Ping screamed in pain. This was his real body, which had been seriously injured. There was almost no hope for him to recover. Almost at the same time, Lin Sun's fist energy pressed down. With a bang, Lu Ping's head exploded. He was killed on the spot. He didn't even have the time to dodge. Everyone was shocked, and there was dead silence. This was the first strong man to die in the battle, and he was an outstanding and brilliant talent of the pantheon of demons. He was killed by the young man's brutal attack just like that. If the news was sent back to the pantheon of demons, it would certainly raise the wrath of the entire sect. The loss of a heavenly talent would be a heavy blow. Chapter 468. Jing Qi suffered a crushing defeat and almost died. He Donglin was seriously injured and fainted. But now, Lu Ping was killed directly, and his blood splashed in the sky. This series of changes shocked everyone present. They didn't expect that the young man who was suppressed and considered insignificant before would become so fierce and powerful in the blink of an eye. He was like a demon god who could be the king of the sea spirit realm and suppress all enemies. Everyone, this person is difficult to deal with. If we continue to watch from the sidelines, maybe we will all be defeated one by one and die here. Yunke said slowly, as if he deliberately said so to provoke others. However, what he said was true. Lin Sun's power had aroused their vigilance and fear. If he was allowed to run amok like this, the consequences would be very serious. In that case, why don't we kill this man together? Bai Yu, the future leader of the demon-suppressing family, said in a sonorous voice, full of killing intent. Okay. Immediately, many people echoed. Originally, Ling Xinyuo, Tai Qianhan, and others did not express their opinion, so they did not object either. Obviously, they acquiesced. Then don't hide. Let's do it together. Yuan Zhan shouted, his aura surging. You guys are really laughable. Previously, you attacked me alone and failed. Now, you're just playing the same old trick again. You're still talking so righteously. How can people like you be called Heaven's Pride? I think you're just a group of deceivers. Lin Sun laughed, his eyes looking disdainfully in all directions. He was not afraid, and his words were even more impolite. Kill! You're courting death. With a loud shout, a group of descendants of the old sects took action and used their secret methods. Go to hell! Yuan Zhan roared and turned into an ape demon. His fists were like mountains, steaming with a terrifying bloody light. Boom! In this regard, Lin Sun did not dodge, but rushed to meet Yuan Zhan head-on. A violent aura gushed out and collided with Yuan Zhan head-on. In an instant, Yuan Zhan's figure staggered. Many people gasped. Yuan Zhan was a powerful ape demon with terrible blood qi and infinite strength. But in a head-on confrontation, he was obviously inferior. Kill! Lin Sun's shout resounded through the world. The sea of qi in his body surged and he fought with the enemies in all directions. Although he was alone, he actually had the attitude of sweeping through mountains and rivers and destroying everything in his path. At this moment, Lin Sun didn't hold back anymore. He had almost figured out the strength of these geniuses, so he wouldn't keep dodging like he did at the beginning. Clang! Yun Ku's entire body flowed with the aura of treasures, and he was like an exiled immortal with a dazzling elegance as he slaughtered over with the pine vein ancient sword in hand. The sword qi was profound, unfathomable, swift, and fierce. It belonged to the supreme inheritance of the spirit origin sword sect, and it could destroy mountains and rivers and throw the world into chaos. Lin Sun didn't dodge. He superimposed the five-fold fist force, which was as bright as the sun. With a bang, the void exploded and the brilliant sword qi was dissolved. At the same time, Lin Sun ran treading ice to avoid the heavy attacks on the other side and kept rushing forward to kill Yuan Zhan first. rumble. His entire body's power was like a storm, erupting from the great abyss. His head of black hair danced about chaotically, his eyes like lightning. He attacked with full force, using this to test the results of his cultivation. "Arrogant man, go to hell!" Yuan Zhan roared. He was fierce and unruly. In the face of Lin Sun's killing intent, he naturally wouldn't give in. Boom! He stamped his feet in the void, bursting out blazing blood chi. If this chapter is not finished, please turn the page. It turned into golden ripples and rushed towards Lin Sun at a high speed. This was the combat skill of the primordial demonic ape, which could merge with heaven and earth and integrate power into blood chi. It could directly crush the enemy. The others also used their killing moves. They didn't dare to be careless and wanted to kill Lin Sun together. Whoosh! The billowing sword chi swept across, accompanied by mysterious Taoist light. Yun Ku also attacked from one side. "Get lost!" Lin Sun's eyes flashed with cold lightning. His body burst out like a peerless furnace, and he performed the 9 strikes for shaking heaven to the level of superimposed 6 forces. Suddenly, Yuan Zhan coughed up blood and was smashed away by the fist force. The sword chi all over the sky was smashed into pieces. Yun Ku's face suddenly changed and he had to dodge. Several disciples of other sects didn't dodge in time and were directly blown away by the fist force. The power of one punch was so terrifying. All the people present gasped. How domineering it was! He alone defeated so many attacks in one fell swoop, as if he was invincible. This was the power of the 9 strikes for shaking heaven. Before the transformation, Lin Sun could barely superimpose 4 forces at most. Yet now, he was already able to easily overlap 6 layers of fist force, and its might was so formidable that it had already attained a world-shocking state. Whoosh! On the other side, a purple-clothed woman charged over. She brandished a bone whip that pointed towards the heavens and struck the earth, causing ripples to form in the air. Dong! With a loud bang, the long bone whip was shaken away. The woman in purple gave a muffled groan and had to dodge. The world fell into chaos. Many descendants of ancient orthodoxies attacked with all their strength. They didn't dare to be careless. They felt that this young man was ridiculously powerful, just like a monster. If it were other talents in the world, it would be difficult for them to resist. But this young man could move freely and couldn't be suppressed, which was too amazing. "Kill!" Yuan Zhan roared, and his eyes were red. "That's all," Lin Sun said coldly. Although Yuan Zhan was strong, he had seen it, so he was not afraid. He punched him back with a backhand. At the same time, his figure was shining. He crushed many attacks with a rumble and pushed forward with irresistible force. Boom! Yuan Zhan screamed as if he was struck by lightning. Blood burst out of his body, and he was knocked down from the void and hit the ground hard. He had been seriously injured. The practitioners in the distance were stunned. This young man was so powerful. Who could imagine that he was so fierce and couldn't be suppressed in the face of 10 opponents? Everyone knew that his opponents were all descendants of ancient orthodoxies with extremely powerful backgrounds. "You are still holding back at this time. Are you really going to let him continue to be fierce?" Someone roared. Almost at the same time, Bai Yu moved. The spear in his hand was shining with golden light. Like a god of death, he disturbed the void and attacked. On the other side, Tai Qianhan also attacked. His figure as majestic as a mountain squeezed the void, and he waved a thick black iron stick and chopped down. The attack of 2 peerless talents immediately put great pressure on Lin Sun. But it was too early to be happy. Lin Sun's aura rose a lot again, and his whole body was dazzling like an illusion. With a bang, the whole area shook. Divine light burst out and was crushed by the fist energy. Several descendants of ancient sects screamed and were seriously injured, losing their combat effectiveness. "So what if you come together? I can kill you like killing chickens and dogs." Lin Sun vented all the anger in his heart at this moment. His figure moved horizontally like a great abyss, crushing the enemies in all directions. He was invincible. All the people present were dumbfounded. This big battle was too shocking. What shocked them most was that the young man was so powerful. This chapter is not over, please turn the page. He was domineering and fearless of all enemies. This man must be killed. Many Tao Insight Realm powerhouses' eyes flickered. They were ready to make a move. Lin Sun's means shocked them. They knew that if they didn't kill him, he was destined to be a big trouble in the future. Lin Sun, who was on the battlefield, suddenly glanced over, which made those Tao Insight Realm powerhouses' hearts tremble. What a terrifying perception! Kill! On the battlefield, Bai Yu roared like a god of death. His spear swept through the air, producing a terrible killing intent, like a waterfall pouring down. At the same time, Ling Xinyuo finally moved. Her figure was like a floating fairy, like a shocking rainbow. She casually walked in the void, and with a light stroke of her white finger, a dazzling blue electric light burst out. Crack! It was like a lightning tribulation had descended here. The void was shattered, and the blue electric light swept through, as if it was about to suppress all evils. Everyone was excited. Finally, Ling Xinyuo, the peerless genius, also made a move. It was just one strike, but it showed her unparalleled elegance. Boom! Although Lin Sun blocked the electric arc, his sleeves were shattered. His palms and fingers were trembling and a little numb. This was the power of thunder. It was really domineering and terrifying. If it was any other practitioner, this strike alone would be enough to kill them. At the same time, the white feather spear swept across. On the other side, Yun Ku splashed his sword qi, and Tai Qianhan waved his iron rod. From all directions, strong enemies attacked together, wanting to suppress and kill Lin Sun, so that he could no longer act violently. It seems that it's time to end this. Clang! However, at this moment, a broken blade suddenly appeared in Lin Sun's palm, releasing dazzling starlight. It was dreamy and illusory like a galaxy falling down. His black hair fluttered, and his eyes became colder and colder. Like a demon, he rushed forward. Crack! The white feather spear was easily cut off like a piece of paper. Stop him! Everyone made a move, stimulated by this scene. However, the power released by Lin Sun at this moment was too strong. His chest was boiling hot, and his spiritual vein was blazing and shining, steaming with holy air. Bai Yu, nicknamed Little God of Killing, was a peerless genius who had killed countless people. But at this moment, he was frightened by Lin Sun's power. He was so shocked that he tried his best to retreat. Unfortunately, Lin Sun was different with the broken blade in his hand. He rushed forward with irresistible force, and the broken blade swept across. With a puff, Bai Yu's stomach was cut open. Bai Yu let out an earth-shattering scream and suddenly crushed a jade talisman. With a bang, he was wrapped by an unpredictable force and disappeared in the field. Lin Sun narrowed his eyes and was a little surprised. Then he knew that it must be Bai Yu's life-saving means. A genius like him must have high hopes and been given many self-defense treasures by the clan. It was not so easy for him to be killed. But even so, Bai Yu's fiasco shocked the audience. Many people's faces changed, and they couldn't believe it. It's him. That cruel boy. At this moment, seeing the broken blade that shone like a star, a cultivator finally thought of something and shouted. It's him. Numerous uproars followed. This boy had killed Qian Huai, a strong practitioner in Tao Insight Realm, and made Taoist Xiong retreat in vain. He had also fought against Chu Lintian, a Grotto Heaven Realm cultivator of the Eastern Pole Sword sect. The scariest thing was that he had single-handedly subdued the heaven-defying blade, defeated all his enemies, and even killed 2 Grotto Heaven Realm cultivators. All of a sudden, the audience was shocked. They finally knew why this boy was so cruel. He was a tough guy who had killed a practitioner in Tao Insight Realm. Chapter 469. As Lin Sun's identity was revealed, the audience fell into a great shock. Practitioners of Tao Insight Realm had been killed by this ferocious young man, and even the fierce blade was subdued by him. How could he be the king of Sea Spirit Realm? He clearly had the power to fight against those in Tao Insight Realm. It turns out to be him. No wonder, no wonder. But who is he? When did such a freak appear in the ancient spirit world? The audience was in an uproar. On the battlefield, Ling Xinyuo, Tai Qianhan, and Yun Ku also changed their faces slightly. They had also heard some stories about the ferocious young man. But they didn't expect that the handsome young man in front of them was him. Kill. Lin Sun didn't care about this. He didn't belong to the ancient spirit world, so he wouldn't be afraid of anything. Even if the world was turned upside down and blood flowed like a river, he wouldn't care. With the broken blade in his hand, he used ice dragon steps to break the void and conquer the audience. He was like a peerless sharpness that 5 people could resist. Puff! In the twinkling of an eye, a successor of an ancient sect was killed. Han Zhongpu, the successor of the Eastern Pole Sword sect. This was another genius who died tragically on the spot after Lu Ping. The audience was shocked. Was this ferocious young man going to kill all the geniuses today? Wasn't he afraid of retaliation? Every genius was not easy to cultivate. They were the hearts of the ancient orthodoxies. The death of one was equivalent to a heavy blow. All the practitioners of the ancient orthodoxies were shocked, and their faces were livid. Today they suffered such a humiliation, but they couldn't do anything to the ferocious young man. For so many years, their forces had occupied the ancient spirit world, watching the ups and downs of the world. No one dared to provoke them, let alone be bullied. But today, a young man killed so many people that they couldn't stop him. This scene deeply shocked everyone. Many onlookers were speechless. They hadn't seen such a brave young man for many years. His style could be called unparalleled in the world. How dare you, young man? In the distance, Chu Lintian from the Eastern Pole Sword sect roared like thunder. His face was full of anger, and his eyes were about to split. He rushed to Lin Sun. Xinyuo, come back. This guy is too arrogant. Let us old guys deal with him. This kid can't be allowed to live. A majestic voice sounded in the field, and the strong practitioners of Tao Insight Realm from the ancient orthodoxies all took action. They realized the problem and couldn't tolerate Lin Sun's violence anymore. Otherwise, they would lose even more descendants. For a time, under the vast sky, the figures of the great cultivators in the Tao Insight Realm appeared, like a rising sun, and their monstrous power oppressed the mountains and rivers, causing everyone to be shocked. At the same time, although Ling Xinyuo, Tai Qianhan, Yun Ku and other disciples were extremely unwilling, they also knew that Lin Sun was too ferocious and could not be defeated by force, so they chose to dodge. You want to leave? It won't be that easy. However, at this moment, Lin Sun seemed to be unaware of the coming danger. He was still arrogant and domineering. Holding the broken sword in his hand, he splashed the silver brilliance of the Milky Way and covered the 2 disciples who couldn't dodge in time. They let out blood-curdling screams, unable to struggle, and were burned to death on the spot. Little bastard, you're bound to die today. Chu Lintian roared as he swooped down. His terrifying aura transformed into a black ray of light that crushed down. This was not the precious blood plane, so the cultivation of the Tao Insight Realm was no longer suppressed. If this chapter is not finished, please turn the page. It was enough to change the color of heaven and earth. Young man, your killing intent is too heavy, and you've provoked public anger. Just accept your death obediently. Don't struggle needlessly anymore. On the other side, an old man in a white robe rose into the air, and a silver ice wheel appeared behind him. There was Tao rhyme in it, as if there was a great way steaming in it. In addition, there were several other strong cultivators in the Tao Insight Realm attacking. All of them mastered the wonders of the Tao Insight Realm. Their figures blended with heaven and earth, and their power was monstrous. The practitioners in the distance all dodged, trembling with fear. How could it be ordinary for a practitioner in the Tao Insight realm to attack? At this time, Lin Sun also felt an extremely dangerous aura, and the pressure suddenly increased. This was not one or two great cultivators in the Tao Insight realm, but a group of them. However, he was still not afraid. His eyes were as cold as lightning, and he laughed out loud. A group of old dogs, bullying me because I'm young, and you still have so many bullshit reasons. Ridiculous. As he spoke, the broken sword glowed and was urged to the extreme, and he slashed out with the reaching for the stars. Boom! The black glow released by Chu Lintian was crushed into powder and turned into a rain of light. But Lin Sun was unscathed. What a monster! The whole audience was in an uproar. Based on this alone, the ferocious young man could dominate all the talents, and his sharpness could not be concealed. Young man, your killing intent is too heavy. You should be killed. The old man in a white robe attacked with a silver ice wheel, which contained the Great Way. It suppressed the sky and rumbled with terrible momentum. It's ridiculous. You want to kill me and seize my treasure, but you hit me instead. Don't you have any shame? Lin Sun was strong. The broken sword swept through the air, and stars floated in the silver light, showing endless strange phenomena. It had to be said that the broken sword was extremely shocking and fierce. When Lin Sun used the reaching for the stars, it burst out with unimaginable power. Bang! The ice wheel exploded, and the aftermath spread in all directions. Lin Sun's face turned pale, and he took a few steps back. He couldn't help but be moved, realizing that the strength of the old man in a white robe was not to be underestimated. The old man in a white robe was even more surprised. His attack could easily kill a Sea Spirit Realm practitioner, but it was blocked by the young man, which was incredible. Sharp-tongued and reckless. On the other side, several strong practitioners in Tao Insight Realm came again. Each of them manipulated the power of the Great Way, and the brilliant light soared into the sky, suppressing this area. It was too strong. That kind of attack was about to smash the void into pieces. Many practitioners in the distance were so scared that their scalps were numb. They retreated again and again for fear of being affected. Lin Sun, who was in the center of the battlefield, was also in danger. No matter how powerful he was only one person after all, and there was a big realm gap between him and his opponent. How could he resist so many great practitioners? Go to hell! Chu Lintian, the old man in a white robe, and other great practitioners in Tao Insight Realm all looked cold and regarded Lin Sun as a dead thing. Even the people in the distance could see that Lin Sun was doomed. But at this moment, Lin Sun showed a mocking smile. He didn't dodge, and his black eyes glanced at those great practitioners in Tao Insight Realm. At the same time, he crushed a jade talisman in his palm. Buzz! A strange wave suddenly emerged and shrouded Lin Sun's whole body. The terrible attack performed by a great practitioner in Tao Insight Realm swept over, but it couldn't break the strange wave at all. What is this? All the people were surprised. The strange wave was like a ripple. Although it was soft, it was filled with an indescribable aura, which covered Lin Sun's whole body. Those grotto heavens! If this chapter is not finished, please turn the page. The strong practitioners in Tao Insight Realm were all horrified and retreated one after another. They could smell a fatal threat from that aura, which made them all terrified. If I have a chance to come back in the future, I will kill you old dogs one by one. Lin Sun laughed and was in high spirits. This was a kind of disdain and arrogance. He regarded them as nothing. A group of great practitioners in Tao Insight Realm was furious. Their faces were red and their blood was boiling. They felt a kind of unspeakable shame. How dare the young man threaten them like this? However, with a buzz, the young man suddenly disappeared in the laughter. He was taken away by the strange force as if he had evaporated from the world. "Damn it!" Chu Lintian roared to the sky. He was so angry that he went crazy. A young man dared to be arrogant and domineering in front of him, humiliating him again and again. Moreover, he had once killed a genius of their sect. How could he not be angry? The other great practitioners in Tao Insight Realm also looked ugly. So many people attacked, but in the end they couldn't stop the young man. This was simply a disgrace. It's over. The Luoho secret method was also taken away. Yun Ku's expression was gloomy. The other geniuses were also silent. Their hearts were surging. Lin Sun's arrogant attitude before had deeply shocked them. When we meet next time, I will unlock the seal in my body and use my real strength to fight with you. Ling Xinyuo was silent. As a proud woman, she was famous all over the world. She had never been defeated and was respected by countless people. But today, she couldn't do anything to Lin Sun, which made her unable to calm down. However, no one knew that the power she had displayed before was not even 1/10 of her real strength. The crowd of practitioners in the field couldn't help but be shocked when they saw the end of the battle in this way. If this cruel young man doesn't die, with his heaven-defying talent, he will definitely reach the peak of the Tao in the future. Someone sighed softly. It is said that the peak of Sea Spirit Realm is the road to supremacy. This cruel young man is so heaven-defying. I'm afraid he is the legendary Supreme Sea Spirit Realm. Hearing these discussions, the faces of many ancient orthodoxies became even uglier. Obviously, everyone thought that they had suffered a setback. In less than a day, this battle will definitely spread throughout the ancient spirit world, and the name of the cruel young man will rise like the sun in the sky and shake the world. This was the intuition of many people, because this battle was too unusual. It could be said to be earth-shattering and unprecedented. Who on earth is he? However, until the end, no one knew who the cruel young man was and where he came from. Perhaps Liandye knows. Didn't she act with the cruel young man before? Many people thought that if they wanted to find clues about Lin Sun, they only needed to find Liandye. We must catch this demoness and force her to tell us the whereabouts of the young man. Yes, this demoness must be the young man's accomplice. Those ancient orthodoxies also coveted Liandye. If Liandye knew that she tricked Lin Sun and got herself into trouble in the end, what would she think? In the heaven accessing place, with a strange wave, Lin Sun appeared on the Green Cloud Avenue, which made him a little absent-minded. Everything he had experienced in the ancient spirit world was like a dream. Now that he came back, it was hard for him to calm down. The fifth pass of the heaven accessing place is Tao Fusion. Next time, you need to reach Tao Insight Realm. It wasn't long before the voice that was chilly and icy cold resounded. Chapter 470. Tao Melting. This was the name of the fifth level of Green Cloud Path. In the quiet room on the third floor of Heart Cleansing Hall, Lin Sun woke up slowly, and the cold voice still resounded in his mind. Looking at the silent and empty hall, Lin Sun breathed out a long sigh of relief. He was back. This challenge lasted for more than a month. Lin Sun experienced life and death in the Luoho Mountain of the ancient spirit world. Now he returned to Heart Cleansing Peak and his familiar environment. He couldn't help but feel like he was dreaming. If those old things knew that I didn't belong to the ancient spirit world, I don't know how angry they would be. Lin Sun remembered the exasperated look of those strong practitioners of Tao Insight Realm when he left, and he couldn't help but smile. Soon, he collected his thoughts and began to summarize the gains of this challenge. Whoosh, whoosh, whoosh. His sea of consciousness tumbled. Suddenly, a sharp black light as thin as a cow's hair gushed out from his nostrils. If one looked carefully, they would notice that they were actually insects that were shaped like needles, completely pitch black, and emanated an extremely cold and terrifying aura. They were smaller than rice grains, illusory and inconspicuous, but they had a name that could frighten any strong practitioner, spirit-eating insects. A total of 73 insects were sealed by Lin Sun's soul power. At this moment, they were taken out and put into a mutton fat jade bottle. In the forbidden area of the Blood Wilderness ancient land, Lin Sun was suddenly attacked and killed by the spirit-eating insects. Lian Ye thought that he would definitely die. But Lian Ye didn't know that when these terrible insects entered Lin Sun's sea of consciousness, they were suppressed and sealed by the star circulation which had reached the consummate level. This was the peculiar magical effect of meditating magic. It was not only as simple as enhancing perception and comprehension, but also had an incredible magical effect in soul attack. It had helped Lin Sun resolve dangers many times. This is a good treasure. Even practitioners of Tao Insight realm can't resist it. A single one of them can hurt the soul of a practitioner of Tao Insight realm and cause terrible consequences. Lin Sun carefully hid the sealed spirit-eating insects. They could be used as a trump card in the future and would definitely have a miraculous effect. He'd once heard from Lian Ye that even during the ancient times, the god-devourer insects were a group of terrifying insects that had once devoured the souls of gods. They were extremely terrifying. In the ancient spirit world, the god-devouring insects had already gone extinct. Lian Ye had not expected to encounter such a fierce ancient insect in the forbidden area of the ancient blood desolation land. Thinking of Lian Ye, who was as cunning as a fox and full of tricks, Lin Sun felt a tightness in his chest. He tried his best to guard against her, but he was still cheated by her. And the reason she had set him up was because he had once refused to cooperate with her. The more beautiful a woman is, the more vengeful she is? Lin Sun didn't believe it at all. This woman's original form is a 5-colored lotus. If I have the chance to meet her again, I must refine her into a medicinal pill. Lin Sun grinded his teeth secretly. He had been besieged by so many talents before, and even a group of Tao Insight realm strongmen were eyeing him covetously. If he didn't have the means to escape, he would have been killed. All of this was thanks to Lian Ye. Hula before long, Lin Sun took out a lustrous white horn, a pitch-black broken blade, and a crimson gourd. These were his biggest gains after entering the ancient spirit world this time. The lustrous white horn was rumored to belong to the ancient Rahu Demon King, and it was believed to contain the supreme inheritance of the Rahu Demon King. However, Lin Sun had already learned from Lian Ye that the horn wasn't a Rahu's secret method, but a mysterious treasure map. At this moment, Lin Sun held the horn in his hand and looked at it carefully. It was only half a foot long and it was lustrous white. The bone patterns were enshrouded in ancient Tao, and it had a terrifying aura of vicissitudes. The Great Way was engraved on it, and time hadn't eroded it. Just by looking at its appearance, one could tell how extraordinary this horn was. When Lin Sun's perception power entered it, he saw a boundless world with blue seas and blue skies. Divine light fell from the sky, and rosy clouds rose. There were fierce birds flying in the sky, and there were strange beasts moving between mountains and rivers. It was magnificent and boundless, and it was filled with an ancient and primitive aura. On a lofty divine mountain, old vines hung down, ancient trees towered into the sky, divine herbs glowed, and multicolored lights flowed everywhere while the aura of treasures rose. It was like an immortal paradise. An emaciated figure sat upright before a stone house. His figure was enveloped in divine radiance, and he seemed dreamlike and illusory. Moreover, he held a treasure map in his hand. Is the bloody wilderness a place to bury the Tao or a place to attain the Tao? The appearance of the stellar map has caused a great change to descend. Should I go or not? In his days, a sigh resounded, and it was filled with struggle, desolation, and bewilderment. After that, all the illusions exploded into pieces and transformed into a treasure map. The treasure map was inscribed with the ancient and strange characters stellar map, and there were dense, crisscrossing, and glistening cloud markings on it. It seemed to be a map of a mysterious area. As expected, There's only a treasure map within this horn. Lin Sun withdrew his perception while he felt slightly strange in his heart. Everything he saw earlier was truly too magnificent and shocking. Immortal mountains, flying beasts, divine herbs. Everything seemed to be extraordinary, whereas the emaciated old man was probably the ancient Rahu demon king. When his emotions returned to calm, Lin Sun quickly deduced that this treasure map, called Stellar Map, was probably related to the ancient blood desolation that he'd entered in the past. Or perhaps, the Rahu demon king had relied on this map to head to the ancient blood desolation, but he unfortunately perished there in the end. For no rhyme or reason, Lin Sun recalled everything in the ancient blood desolation. He recalled the river of blood that flowed silently, the numerous ancient corpses that floated in the river of blood, a lone tomb and a broken tablet. He recalled the sword chi that charged out from the surging mist of blood, the ceaselessly surging war drums, and the tattered and fluttering war flags before he left. That was the bloody wilderness forbidden area. But what exactly had happened there? Had the gods really been buried there and caused Rahu Demon King to bleed there? Lin Sun stared blankly for a short while, and then he shook his head in the end, and put away the horn of Rahu. If he had the chance to head to the ancient spirit world in the future, then perhaps he would go explore it. But not now. Lin Sun picked up the crimson gourd. This treasure was called Refining Spirit Gourd, which was equally marvelous. It might come from an ancient orthodoxy called Tai Pure Land. There was a drop of purple blood sealed in it, which contained the cultivation left by a great figure in the ancient times. The breath of that drop of blood was too powerful. At that time, Lin Sun used all his means, but he only got some vague information. He knew that the owner of this drop of purple blood had once mastered the truth of 3,000 Tao, and his strength was almost unparalleled. But in the end, he was schemed against and died tragically. 3,000 drops of blood essence in his heart were gouged out, and each drop of blood essence contained a kind of cultivation. The purple blood sealed in the refining spirit gourd was one of them. Lin Sun once tried to refine this drop of purple blood to perceive and master the cultivation contained in it, but the result was that he almost got into trouble. The reason was that the power of the purple blood was too overbearing and terrifying. Although it was only a drop, it seemed to have an inviolable power. A slight touch would cause a terrible thunderbolt. That power was not something that Lin Sun could refine at present. It's a pity that I can't use this treasure for the time being. Lin Sun was helpless. The refining spirit gourd must be extraordinary, but in order to seal the purple blood, it was destined not to be used by Lin Sun. Unless he could refine that drop of purple blood one day. Fortunately, I still have this fierce blade. Lin Sun's eyes fell on the broken blade, which was dark all over. He didn't know what it was made of, but it was as heavy as tens of thousands of kilograms. Its hilt was stained with dark red blood stains, which had not faded after years of erosion. It seemed that it had killed a god and was stained with the blood of a god, giving off a heart-palpitating breath. On the surface of the blade, it was engraved with ancient patterns, which were extremely obscure, not like spiritual tattoos or Tao runes, so it was impossible to see what they were. But the more it was like this, the more mysterious it seemed. Lin Sun still remembered that when he saw this broken blade for the first time, it roared under the sky, steaming with bright silver starlight, like a galaxy dancing in the sky, and killed countless practitioners and made them flee for their lives. No one could subdue it at all, and this was just a broken blade. No one wielded it, no one controlled it, yet it was as if it had a mind of its own. Its ferocious might shook the world, and one could well imagine how terrifying it was when it was complete. Lin Sun was almost killed on the spot in the fierce battle with it. Fortunately, his spiritual vein transformed successfully in the end, so he could suppress it in one fell swoop. But Lin Sun knew that he hadn't completely controlled this blade, because in the battle, the broken blade struggled frequently as if it had intelligence, trying to break free from Lin Sun's control. Otherwise, the power it exerted would definitely be stronger. Lin Sun held the broken blade in his hand and stimulated the power. The surface of the broken blade was overflowing with bright and blazing starlight, and the whole quiet room was dyed with a layer of magnificent silver, as illusory as the starlight. The ancient times are really unfathomable, with incredible legends and power. I don't know who made this broken blade, but it could have such power. Lin Sun sighed in his heart. Lin Sun sighed in his heart. As a spiritual tattoo master, he was also proficient in refining spiritual weapons, but he couldn't tell the material, grade, and origin of this broken blade at all. It was like a natural masterpiece, which could be called a creation of heaven and earth. The broken blade was still struggling, as if it was unruly and unwilling to submit. Lin Sun couldn't help but smile, thinking that one day, he would make it obediently bow down to him. Putting away the broken blade, Lin Sun counted some other gains, such as a spiritual crystal obtained from killing the greenwood monster, a storage ring obtained from Qian Huai, a practitioner of Tao Insight Realm, and some spiritual materials such as fur, bones, and teeth of monsters. In the ancient spirits world, it might not be a big deal. But in Xiao Empire, the spiritual materials from the demonic beasts were rare treasures with amazing value. However, there were gains and losses. His spiritual treasure, Purple Soul Saber, was destroyed by the broken blade. Similarly, in order to stabilize the spiritual vein, he consumed all the elixirs and more than 10 monster cores he collected. But compared with the gains, these consumption were nothing at all in this trip to the ancient spirit world. I haven't seen you for more than a month. I wonder how the outside world is. Finally, Lin Sun stood up, pushed the door and walked out of the quiet room. Chapter 471. It was early in the morning. When Lin Sun walked out of Heart Cleansing Hall, he saw the clouds were steaming and the morning sun was shining. The air was filled with the fragrance of grass and trees, which was refreshing. The familiar environment made Lin Sun feel very secure. But to Lin Sun's surprise, he didn't see anyone along the way. Even Lin Zhong was missing. "Ah, young master, are you out?" Before long, a maidservant hurried by. When she saw Lin Sun, she couldn't help being stunned and immediately saluted. "Where are Grandad Zhong and others?" Lin Sun asked. "They all went to Baiguang Pavilion." The maidservant said nervously, I heard that a young master of our Lin family was beaten." Lin Sun was stunned. What exactly happened? The maidservant stammered, "I don't know. I only heard that it seems to be related to those people who blocked outside Heart Cleansing Peak." Lin Sun narrowed his eyes. Who dare to block outside Heart Cleansing Peak? Who are they and what are they going to do? The maidservant became more and more flustered. She couldn't tell the reason for a long time. This made Lin Sun frown. He turned around and hurried to the mountainside. It had been less than 2 months since he left, but many things had happened on Heart Cleansing Peak during this period. Baiguang Pavilion. At this time, a group of Northlight Lin clan members who moved back gathered together. They looked sad and indignant and were shouting excitedly. "That's too much! That's too much!" The children of Zhou family and Qin family almost ran into Heart Cleansing Peak and made trouble. The most annoying ones are the children of Westbrook family, Floating Cloud family and Flying Peak family. They even helped the evildoers to come here to show off and hurt cousin Yunwen. It's a disgrace to our Lin family. They are a group of traitors. I don't think they are still members of our Lin family. When Lin Sun arrived, he saw the scene in a mess. They were filled with indignation and hatred. Was it related to Zhou family and Qin family? Lin Sun's black eyes flashed coldly. Without hesitation, he went to the main hall of Baiguang Pavilion. He had already sensed that Lin Zhong, Vulture and Young Ku were all in Baiguang Pavilion at the moment. "Hey, Lin Sun has come out of the closed-door training." Someone recognized Lin Sun, which immediately caused an uproar. Those disciples of Northlight Lin seemed to have found their backbone and shouted with grief and indignation. Cousin Lin Sun, you finally showed up. Heart Cleansing Peak has been bullied by others now. That's right. You have to make a decision for everyone. We've been so stifled these past few days. Woo-woo, Cousin Lin Sun is finally back. It's great. A teenage girl actually choked with emotion. Just by looking at this situation, it could be known that something must have happened on Heart Cleansing Peak during this period, which made everyone resentful and aggrieved. Everyone, once I understand the situation, I will make a decision. Lin Sun took a deep breath and said in a low voice. After that, he turned around and walked into the main hall of Baiguang Pavilion. In the large hall, the atmosphere was somewhat heavy. A youth was lying on the ground, covered in blood and unconscious. Ci Shui was treating the youth's injury. Ci Shui was a medical practitioner in the battlefield and an excellent pharmacist himself. Seeing that even Ci Shui was called here, it could be imagined that the youth's injury must be extremely serious. Around them, Vulture, Young Ku, Lin Zhong and some high-level figures of Northlight Lin were all gloomy and talking about something. What happened? Lin Sun saw such a scene when he came in. Young master, you're back. Lin Zhong was surprised. Vulture, Young Ku and others also turned their heads with joy. Lin Sun had been in closed-door training for nearly 2 months this time. It was not a long time, but a lot of things happened during this period, which made it difficult for them to make a decision. Naturally, they also hoped that Lin Sun would show up earlier. Well, what's going on? Lin Sun frowned and asked. He was not in the mood to talk about the old days. What he saw just now made him realize that something must have happened during this period. Lin Zhong sighed with some resentment and helplessness on his face. It seemed that he didn't know where to start. Let me tell you. Vulture, sitting in the wheelchair, said calmly with clear eyes. It turned out that after the last birthday banquet of the Queen, Lin Sun forced Marquis Lingtian, Zhao Jingyin to kneel down in the duel, which caused a sensation in the whole Forbidden City. Many people thought that Lin Sun's action was too fierce and had caused a great disaster. He had completely offended the royal family of the empire. In addition, they thought that at that time, Lin Sun blindly showed off his fierceness, ignored the opposition of a group of nobles, and spoke arrogantly. He was extremely disrespectful to those nobles, which meant that he had indirectly offended a lot of aristocratic families. Under such circumstances, Lin Sun was destined to be suppressed and retaliated. The most intuitive proof was that at the birthday banquet of the Queen, Bai Lingshi, Yuqi Zhe and Song Yi performed so well that they were chosen as disciples by the unworldly masters and went to a mysterious orthodoxy to cultivate. Lin Sun's performance was extremely powerful, but he was not selected in the end. Many people thought that it was a punishment for Lin Sun by the Queen, depriving him of a chance that should have belonged to him. When the news that Lin Sun left the imperial palace that day, he asked for leave from Green Deer School and returned to Heart Cleansing Peak for closed-door cultivation was spread out. Most people in the Forbidden City thought that Lin Sun must have realized the serious consequences and dared not to be arrogant anymore. Under such circumstances, Zhou family and Qin family took the lead in retaliating against Heart Cleansing Peak. During the period when Lin Sun was in closed-door cultivation, the two superior forces, in the name of washing the shame of the royal family of the empire, said that if Lin Sun didn't take the initiative to apologize and atone, they would expel Lin family from Heart Cleansing Peak. Moreover, they secretly instructed the 3 collateral forces of Westbrook, Floating Cloud and Flying Peak to cooperate with each other to retaliate against Heart Cleansing Peak. The first to suffer was Northlight Lin. Almost all their industries were taken away by Westbrook, Floating Cloud and Floating Peak. Their vitality was greatly damaged. Most of those industries had been returned to Heart Cleansing Peak. This was no different from taking away the industries of Heart Cleansing Peak. Fortunately, under the arrangement of Vulture, most of the forces of Northlight Lin had moved to Heart Cleansing Peak, so there was no serious loss of personnel. Why not fight back? When Lin Sun heard this, he felt depressed. His black eyes surged with cold current. He couldn't help asking. With the support of Zhou family and Qin family, it's not easy to have a head-on conflict with them. Otherwise, the loss will only be more serious. Young Ku explained next to him. Lin Sun also understood this, but the anger in his heart was hard to suppress. Before closed-door cultivation, he made great efforts to open a good situation for heart-cleansing Peak. But now, Northlight Lin suffered a great loss, which was equivalent to a blow to heart-cleansing Peak. How could Lin Sun bear it? If that's all, it's not a big deal. The most troublesome thing is that they have sent many forces to block heart-cleansing Peak in turn during this period of time. They threatened to make you show up and go to the royal family of the empire to atone for your crimes. Otherwise, they will launch forces to remove heart-cleansing Peak. Vulture also sighed softly. Remove Lin family from heart-cleansing Peak? Suddenly, Lin Sun's black eyes were cold to the extreme, and his whole body was full of uncontrollable killing intent. Lin Zhong, Young Ku, Vulture and others narrowed their eyes and looked at Lin Sun with a little surprise. In less than 2 months, Lin Sun's breath was more than twice as strong as before. His breath made Young Ku feel a little depressed. She had reached Sea Spirit Realm for many years, and as Lin Sun's instructor, she had seen him grow up with her own eyes. But now, Lin Sun's breath was so strong that it made her heart palpitate. It seemed that Lin Sun had gained a lot in this closed-door cultivation. Not only Young Ku, but also Lin Zhong, Vulture and others were shocked. Lin Sun had changed completely. There was an indescribable power in his breath, like a big abyss. When it was dormant, it didn't show up, but once it broke out, it had the power to swallow the sky. What's going on here? Lin Sun took a deep breath and restrained his killing intent. He looked at the seriously injured and unconscious boy on the ground. If he remembered correctly, the boy was his cousin, Lin Yunwen, who was only 14 years old. He was injured by the people who blocked outside. Lin Zhong looked ashamed and said, "These days there were people blocking outside every day. As long as they saw people coming out of heart-cleansing Peak, they would humiliate and provoke them repeatedly. Yunwen was young and didn't know how to endure. When he fought with them, he was injured by them. It's my fault that I didn't take good care of them, which led to this disaster." Vulture sighed. "It's not your fault. I didn't think it through. In order to avoid conflict, I always endured it. But I didn't expect that they became more and more lawless." Lin Sun only felt that his chest was blocked and he couldn't breathe well. In front of his own door, he was provoked, humiliated and beaten by others. This was more than arrogance. It was simply riding on Lin Sun's head to show off. "How is Yunwen?" Lin Sun asked. Ci Shui frowned and shook his head. "Not good. Even if he can recover, it will take him 3 or 5 years to restore his previous cultivation." 3 or 5 years. For a young man, if he delayed healing for 3 to 5 years, his cultivation would fall far behind his peers for the rest of his life. Hearing this, Lin Sun only felt a burst of anger in his chest like lava. He took a deep breath, turned his head and walked out of the hall. "Lin Sun, where are you going?" Young Ku couldn't help asking. "I'm going to have a look outside heart-cleansing Peak," Lin Sun said without looking back. "Young master, you can't be impulsive at this time," Lin Zhong said anxiously. Others also spoke to dissuade Lin Sun. Lin Sun stopped in front of the hall, turned his head and showed a bright smile. "Don't worry, everyone. Someone once told me that if I have the ability, I can even turn the Forbidden City upside down. I was too kind before, but from now on, I'll show them what I can do." The smile was brilliant, but there was no temperature in his black eyes. They were as cold as ice. After that, he turned around and left. Everyone's heart trembled and they hurriedly followed him. Chapter 472. Outside Heart-Cleansing Peak. In the lush woods, a young man with bronzed skin was meditating. As he breathed, the weeds on the ground around him rose and fell with his breath. The scene was mysterious. A man was inhaling and exhaling, and his chi affected the rhythm of the surrounding grass and trees. Obviously, he had reached the profound level of sea spirit realm. There was no doubt that this young man must be an extremely powerful character in the Forbidden City. He could be regarded as one of the best among his peers. Bang! Bang! Suddenly, around the young man, weeds rose from the ground and floated in the void. Then they were broken into powder as if they were struck by lightning. This was not intentional. It was just caused by the powerful oppression caused by a person's breathing. I've made progress. Zhuoyang suddenly opened his eyes. 2 bolts of cold lightning shot out from his eyes. The spiritual energy around his body surged and overflowed from his skin. It surrounded him like a big furnace, surging with spiritual energy. This was the embodiment of a strong cultivation foundation to a certain extent. Child is really a genius of the generation. In just a few months you have reached the 7th level of Great Sky Burning Method. You have been reborn. Compared with the past, you are like a different person. A middle-aged man came and praised Zhuoyang. He was telling the truth. In the Zhuo clan, Zhuoyang was also a genius with superior aptitude. Few of his peers could match him. Zhuoyang stood up and said indifferently, "It's a pity that I missed the birthday banquet of the Empress last time because I was in closed-door practice." The middle-aged man couldn't help sighing. Child's cultivation is not inferior to Bai Lingshi, Yuqi Zhe and Song Yi. But you don't need to worry about it. There will be opportunities to go to the ancient desolation territory for cultivation in the future. You attended the birthday banquet at that time. How do you think I compare with Lin Sun? Zhuoyang's eyes were like lightning, with a trace of wildness and arrogance. The middle-aged man's eyelids twitched and then he sneered. How can Lin Sun compare with you? Lin Sun offended the royal family of the empire and angered the upper echelons of the empire. He will die sooner or later. But he defeated Marquis Lingtian. Zhuoyang looked at Heart-Cleansing Peak in the distance and said indifferently, "The reason why I came here is to try whether Lin Sun is worthy of his reputation." The middle-aged man said with a smile, "I'm afraid that you will be disappointed. He has been hiding in Heart-Cleansing Peak. Obviously, he is afraid of being beaten." Zhuoyang frowned and said coldly, "I don't have the patience to wait. As long as someone comes out of Heart-Cleansing Peak, we should capture him immediately and hang him in front of the gate of Heart-Cleansing Peak. I don't believe we can't force Lin Sun to come out." The middle-aged man's heart shook, and he accepted the order and left. In another area, a burly young man stood with his hands clasped behind his back. Around him were more than 10 attendants wielding sabers, spears, swords, and halberds, surrounding him and attacking him. Clang, clang, clang. The young man didn't move in the slightest, but his body seemed to be forged from fine steel. When the swords and sabers slashed over, a string of sparks sprayed out, yet they couldn't injure him in the slightest. He did not deliberately circulate his strength. Just the strength of his physical body was enough to make it difficult for blades and swords to hurt him. "A bunch of trash. Don't you have any strength?" The young man frowned and berated. His voice was like a clap of thunder. The attendants' bodies trembled, and they used all their strength to attack unceasingly. Sparks splashed around the young man's body, dazzling and blazing. Surprisingly, under such attacks, he was still unscathed. There were only white marks left on his skin. "Child Qinxing, you're really good. Among your peers, I'm afraid that few people in the Forbidden City can compare with you in terms of physical strength." Someone came not far away. It was a young woman. Qinxing, a genius of the young generation of Qin family, one of the 7 top aristocratic families, was famous. He had the talent attribute of golden bone body. His potential was terrible. "Lin Ji, I heard that you injured a young man? If I guess right, the young man is a descendant of Northlight Lin. He is also a blood relative of yours." Qin Xing waved his hand and dispersed the attendants. The young girl named Lin Ji chuckled and said, "Haha, Since Northlight Lin betrayed us and joined Heart Cleansing Peak, I don't think they are my clansmen anymore. Qin Shing laughed and said, You have a good consciousness. With the support of our Qin family in the future, your Westbrook Lin will benefit a lot. Lin Ji said with a smile, I don't deserve a reward if I don't do it. I want to completely irritate Heart Cleansing Peak and force Lin Sun to stand up for me, so that you can show your power and kill him. Qin Shing laughed again and said, Is there any response from Heart Cleansing Peak? Lin Ji said proudly, I almost destroyed Lin Yunwen this time. They can't bear it. Don't you worry that others will accuse you of killing your own blood relatives? Qin Shing was surprised. Lin Ji raised her lips slightly and said with a smile, I'm eradicating the scourge for Lin family. Who is Lin Sun? I don't know where he comes from. It's ridiculous that he wants to take charge of Heart Cleansing Peak. It's ridiculous that he dares to occupy Heart Cleansing Peak. I dare to kill all the people related to him. Qin Shing couldn't help but be surprised. He didn't expect that this woman was so cruel at such a young age. He ordered, Go ahead. I'll wait for your good news. Lin Ji bowed slightly and took her leave. Before long, Lin Ji returned to Heart Cleansing Peak. There were a group of men and women stationed here. They all came from the 3 branches of Westbrook, Floating Cloud and Flying Peak. During this period of time, they had been blocking here. As long as they saw someone coming out of Heart Cleansing Peak, they would provoke and humiliate him to the extreme in order to force Lin Sun to show up. Of course, this was just the superficial purpose. The real intention was to take this opportunity to provoke a war. As long as Heart Cleansing Peak dared to resist, it would inevitably be suppressed by Qin family and Zhou family. Cousin. A young man came up. His name was Lin Wenbao. He came from Floating Cloud Lin. He looked at Lin Ji with a trace of respect. Is there any situation? Lin Ji asked casually. Not yet. Lin Wenbao said and then hesitated. Cousin, is it too cruel for us to do this? After all, Lin Yunwen is from the same clan as us. Before he finished, he was interrupted by Lin Ji unhappily. As I said, they are all traitors. We must use the cruelest means to suppress them. Lin Wenbao immediately shut up. Lin Ji smiled and said leisurely, Cousin, this time, with the help of Qin family and Zhou family, we will be able to recapture Heart Cleansing Peak. This is a mountain of aristocratic families, which represents supreme glory and status. Only we are qualified to live in it. A touch of disgust appeared between her eyebrows. As for Lin Sun and Northlight Lin, they should all be killed. Lin Wenbao sighed in his heart. It was too cruel to kill one's own clan. During this period of time, the whole Forbidden City knew that Lin family was in civil strife. Many people were watching them as a joke. This made Lin Wenbao very uncomfortable. It was too shameful to kill one's own clan. But now there was no turning back. Unless they could kill Lin Sun and recapture Heart Cleansing Peak, a great bloody conflict was inevitable. Lin Sun also knew that the conservative strategy adopted by Vulture was undoubtedly correct. At present, Heart Cleansing Peak did not have the power to fight against Zhou family and Qin family at all. But Lin Sun also knew that enduring would only make the situation of Heart Cleansing Peak worse. He had seen before that Vulture must be waiting for him to come out and plan how to change the current situation in the long run. But Lin Sun didn't want to wait anymore. Others were riding on Heart Cleansing Peak and swaggering around. If Lin Sun continued to endure, he would really be a coward. Hey, someone is coming out. Ha ha ha, it seems that those traitors on Heart Cleansing Peak can't sit still after I beat Lin Yunwen. You all get out of the way. Let me do it first this time. I didn't get the chance to beat Lin Yunwen before. When Lin Sun walked out of Heart Cleansing Peak, there was a noise. Not far away, a group of cultivators stood there. There were both men and women, and all of them wore mocking and excited expressions. They rubbed their palms together and looked extremely arrogant. Boy, why are you alone? A young man in brocade rushed out and sneered. It's disappointing. Do you come out to die like Lin Yunwen? Others laughed. Lin soon glanced at the crowd and smiled brightly, showing his snow-white teeth. I'll give you a chance. Hand over the murderer who hurt Lin Yunwen and kneel down to apologize. I can spare you once. Those people were from the 3 branches of Westbrook, Floating Cloud and Flying Peak. Because of the support of Zhua and Qin, they were used to being lawless these days. Moreover, they didn't suffer any harm these days, which made them more and more satisfied. So when they heard Lin Sun's words, they couldn't help being stunned and almost couldn't believe their ears. Who are you? Who do you think you are? Kneel down. The young man in brocade had been ready to take action for a long time. When he saw a teenager came out alone and dared to be so arrogant, he couldn't help but jump forward and slap Lin Sun. Get out! Lin Sun's shout made the void buzz. An invisible power gushed out like a mountain. With a bang, the young man in brocade robes screamed miserably. He flew up and smashed heavily more than 30 meters away, causing smoke and dust to fill the air. Boom! Moreover, there was a hidden force colliding in the body of the young man in brocade, which made him suppressed there. His mouth and nose were bleeding and he was in a mess. He screamed and struggled to get up. His face was red, his hair was disheveled, and his face was distorted. He roared, "You're courting death. Hurry up and kill him." Obviously, he was used to being arrogant. Now he suffered such a big loss. He couldn't bear it and wanted to kill Lin Sun. People nearby were shocked and looked at each other. The young man's power was so amazing that he suppressed the young man in brocade with his momentum alone. It was really terrible. Reckless. Chapter 473. Boom. It was just power, but it was like a surging tide, oppressing the young man in brocade. Break it! The young man in brocade screamed. He held his hands in a circle, exerted a secret method, and ran all his strength to resist. However, it was too late. The power seemed invisible, but it could shake mountains. All of it was oppressed on him. Suddenly, the young man in brocade seemed to be hit by a giant hammer. He screamed and was suppressed to the ground again. Bang! A pit was smashed on the ground and the rocks were shattered. The young man in brocade twitched. Many bones in his body were broken. His mouth and nose were bleeding. He was extremely miserable. You're courting death. How dare you act violently? You don't want to live. The nearby cultivators were enraged and berated sternly. They were used to being domineering these days. They couldn't believe that a young man who came out of heart-cleansing peak dared to be so cruel. However, they were also smart. They could see that Lin Sun's breath was extremely terrible. It was obvious that he was a strong man in sea spirit realm. Ordinary people couldn't do this. Therefore, although they were angry, they didn't dare to act rashly. Little guy, you're causing trouble for your heart-cleansing peak. If you don't give an explanation today, all the people in heart-cleansing peak will suffer. Someone shouted loudly. You're nothing. Lin Sun's eyes were as cold as lightning. When he spoke, he patted in the void. With a bang, the blazing light cyan light surged and turned into a big hand. With a puff, the man was directly patted to the ground like a fly. He foamed at the mouth, turned his eyes, and fainted directly. Other practitioners were suddenly shocked. This young man was too ferocious. He had no scruples at all and his fighting power was terrible. Do you know what you're doing? Someone tried to sound tough but was actually a coward. As a result, when Lin Sun looked at him, he shivered all over and his face turned pale with fright. He stepped back several steps. Lin Sun's black eyes flashed with contempt, but the anger in his heart was burning more and more. How dare such a group of people stop in front of heart-cleansing peak? Don't try to be violent. Do you know what kind of price you'll have to pay? Young man, I advise you not to let your emotions affect your decisions. Otherwise, when the true calamity comes, you're bound to suffer a calamity. Those practitioners were obviously very unwilling, but they didn't dare to confront Lin Sun face to face, so they shouted and threatened him. Hee, it seems that you didn't hear what I said just now. All right, I will personally help you recall it. With a bright smile, Lin Sun's figure suddenly disappeared. Not good. The complexion of those practitioners changed abruptly. Realizing the danger, they scampered away, wanting to flee. However, he was obviously a step too late. An expanse of dazzling light green divine light flowed, and it flickered through the surroundings at an inconceivable speed like a ghost. That was the ice dragon step. Lin Sun, who was furious, would not be polite at all. His figure moved up and down, and his palms and fingers were flying. It was just a casual strike, but it was unstoppable and unstoppable. Bang, bang, bang. In the field, people and horses were thrown off their feet. The practitioners screamed as they were suppressed and fell to the ground. The scene was extremely frightening. Some people wanted to fight back with their spiritual weapons, but they were smashed by Lin Sun with one palm and the whole person was blown away. In just a few breaths, all the practitioners in the field had fallen to the ground in disorder, crying for their parent. From the beginning to the end, Lin Sun didn't show any mercy. He was really angry. He could easily suppress these despicable people before his closed-door training, not to mention now. But they dared to run wild in front of Heart-Cleansing Peak, which was intolerable to Lin Sun. Although Lin Sun also knew that these practitioners were just minions with the support of big figures, he still didn't intend to let them go. Stop! In the distance, a delicate reproach sounded. Lin Ji jumped to him. There was no anger on her pretty face, but a trace of complacency. After seriously injuring Lin Yunwen before, she had already guessed that those guys on Heart-Cleansing Peak couldn't help it. Now the scene confirmed her guess and proved that she did the right thing. Those guys on Heart-Cleansing Peak couldn't help it. Sister Linji, you finally came. Hurry up, kill this little bastard. He is too arrogant. He dares to commit murder. He doesn't put us in his eyes. Seeing Lin Ji's arrival, those practitioners who hadn't fallen down in the field shouted and looked excited as if they had found their backbone. But Lin Sun didn't seem to notice them. His figure was like an ice puppet crisscrossing. With a burst of sounds, all those practitioners were suppressed to the ground. Some were bleeding from their mouths and noses, some were broken, some were convulsing and moaning, and some fainted directly. You're courting death. Lin Ji's face suddenly darkened when she saw that the boy didn't restrain himself. Instead, he became more aggressive and committed murder under her eyes. At this time, Lin Sun raised his eyes. All the practitioners in the field had been suppressed, so he naturally had to find a new target. You are Lin Sun? Suddenly, Lin Ji seemed to find something. She narrowed her eyes and was ecstatic in her heart. This guy was finally forced to show up. The purpose of them blocking here was to kill Lin Sun. What? This guy is the bastard Lin Sun? Hurry up, kill him. Kill him and we can take back Heart-Cleansing Peak. Those practitioners who were suppressed to the ground finally reacted at this time and couldn't help shouting. Boom! Lin Sun's figure stood there without moving, but a terrible momentum emerged all over his body, covering the area and making those shouting practitioners faint. The scene suddenly became much quieter. Lin Yunwen was hurt by you? Lin Sun looked at Lin Ji in the distance. This woman was just over 10 years old. Her chin was slightly pointed and slightly raised, which made her very conceited and arrogant. Obviously, she was a bossy person. Yes. Lin Ji smiled and said leisurely. He was not as good as me, but he dared to speak against me. I had no choice but to give him a little pain. A little pain? Lin Sun's black eyes were as cold as ice. Lin Yunwen's cultivation was almost destroyed. Even if it was restored, it would take 3 to 5 years. This was a big blow to a teenager. But in the eyes of this woman, it was a little pain. Haha, he offended me. It's kind of you not to kill him. Is it worth being so surprised? Lin Ji smiled. Lin Sun, since you showed up, it couldn't be better. Tell me, do you want to be captured by yourself, or let us do it? Beside her, there were a group of men and women, including servants, descendants of the three collateral forces of Westbrook, floating cloud and flying peak. The smile on Lin Sun's face disappeared. He looked at Lin Ji calmly. Are you also a member of Lin family? Yes, but we're not the descendants of the Lin family that you're from. Lin Ji corrected him seriously with a touch of pride on her face. As for you and Northlight Lin, you are regarded as traitors and don't deserve to be surnamed Lin anymore. Traitor, Lin Sun only felt that a killing intent in his heart was almost uncontrollable. He was the direct descendant of Lin family, who was in charge of heart-cleansing Peak and devoted himself to restoring the glory of Lin family, but now he was regarded as a traitor by these collateral descendants. He didn't deserve to be surnamed Lin. It's really rebellious, Lin Sun murmured. Two abysses loomed in his black eyes, surging with the breath of a storm. He was indeed extremely angry. Lin Ji obviously noticed that Lin Sun's breath was a little wrong. She couldn't help but step back and ordered, "Uncle Hong Kuan, go and catch him." While speaking, she stepped back again. Although she was conceited, she also knew how terrible Lin Sun's fighting capacity was. He was a young talent who had defeated Hua Wuyo and Qi Songfeng and forced Marquis Ling Tianhao to kneel down. Naturally, she would not be stupid to do it herself. "Leave it to me." A middle-aged man stood out with a cold look. He was tall and strong. He was also a very powerful guest deacon in Westbrook Lin. He rushed out without hesitation, and then burst out with a thunderous roar. He raised his hand and took out a broadsword and chopped down. The sound rumbled and shook the wind and clouds. Lin Sun stood still and looked at all this indifferently. Even when the blade swept over, he didn't move at all. He just reached out his hand and grabbed the handle. Hong Kuan's pupils shrank. He couldn't believe that this young man dared to block his blow with one hand. It was too arrogant. "Die!" He shouted and exerted all his strength. The blade surged with light and attacked Lin Sun fiercely. He wanted to kill Lin Sun on the spot. Crack! An ear-piercing cracking sound resounded, and the saber that was at the level of an Earth-rank spirit artifact had actually been fiercely shattered. At the same time, a horrible force hit Hong Kuan fiercely like a vast sea hitting the ninth heaven. Boom! Hong Kuan's body trembled as if he was struck by lightning. Blood spurted from his mouth and nose. He couldn't believe it. With a livid face, he roared again and rushed forward to kill Lin Sun. He exerted all his strength to the extreme and pressed down like a mountain. Lin Sun's body didn't move at all. His palm and fingers turned into a fist. The bright fist power crushed the void and collided with Hong Kuan. Boom! After the earth-shattering noise, Hong Kuan screamed like a beast under the horrified gaze of the crowd. Half of his body exploded, and the scarlet blood spurted out. Plop! When he fell to the ground, his eyes turned over and he died on the spot. The injury was so serious that his internal organs were smashed into pieces by this punch. All the people present gasped. Lin Ji and the others all changed their expressions. Hong Kuan was a strong practitioner in the fulfillment of Sea Spirit Realm, a powerful figure of the older generation. But now, he was killed on the spot in a flash. Many of them had already known that Lin Sun had defeated Qi Songfeng and Marquis Ling Tian at the birthday party of the Empress, but they still didn't expect that an older practitioner in Sea Spirit Realm was killed like a piece of paper in the first encounter. It was too horrible. At this time, they all looked at Lin Sun differently. Lin Sun stood there with his black eyes cold. He said to Lin Ji, "Now, it's your turn." Chapter 474. Who do you think you are? Do you want to settle accounts with me? Lin Ji took a deep breath and sneered. Lin Sun was indeed very strong. He belonged to the younger generation and was famous in the Forbidden City. However, she didn't come here alone this time. Boom! Lin Sun didn't say anything and strode forward. Around his body, a light cyan light rose up like a great abyss and rushed straight to the sky. The light was so bright that it illuminated the mountains and rivers. This was the reflection of the sea of Qi in the body after reaching the mastery of Sea Spirit Realm. It was not intentional, but natural. Everyone gasped and their faces changed again. There was no need to think too much. Lin Sun's cultivation had reached the peak of Sea Spirit Realm. Whoosh, whoosh, whoosh. At this time, 4 or 5 figures rushed out from Linji. They were all Sea Spirit Realm practitioners from Westbrook, Floating Cloud Lin and Flying Peak Lin. Different from the talents of the younger generation, these people belonged to the older generation. They had been immersed in Sea Spirit Realm for many years. Perhaps their talent was not as good as that of the younger generation, but their foundation was extremely strong. Kill! A quaint bronze plate swept out and turned into a light curtain, sealing the space within a radius of 30 meters. It wanted to imprison Lin Sun in it and kill him. Lin Sun rushed up with his black hair flying and his eyes like lightning. A bright fist power burst out like a sweeping thunderbolt with the power to suppress the universe. The light curtain of 30 meters suddenly burst into pieces. The quaint bronze plate whined and was swept away by the fist power. "Let's go together." Several others shouted and took out their spiritual weapons at the same time. Swords and sabers rang at the same time, shining with cold light. Boom! Lin Sun strode forward without dodging. His body was like an ice dragon soaring into the sky with a gust of wind, making the sand and stones fly and the wind and clouds change. At the same time, he performed the 9 strikes of shaking heaven. His fist power overlapped like a rising sun, killing in all directions. For a while, the area was in a state of vibration. Spiritual weapons flashed, and the light flowed, crushing the void and surging turbulence. Many practitioners nearby retreated, and held their breath for fear of being affected. It's incredible that he has reached the mastery of Sea Spirit Realm in this closed-door meditation. In front of the gate of Heart-Cleansing Peak, Young Ku, Vulture, Lin Zhong and Zhu Laosan had all arrived and were paying attention to this place. At this time, in their eyes, Lin Sun was surrounded by a light cyan glow. His figure was like an ice dragon, and his every movement was full of divine power. Even though they were besieged by several Sea of Soul Realm experts of the older generation, they were still being continuously attacked by him, unable to be suppressed at all. This surprised Young Ku and the others. They realized that Lin Sun must have undergone a complete transformation during this period of closed-door cultivation. Boom! A spiritual sword was smashed away, whining loudly. Lin Sun's fist strength suppressed the universe and rushed towards an old man. How can he be so strong? The old man's expression suddenly changed. Although they had already seen Lin Sun's battle just now, it was another thing to experience it personally. In particular, they still couldn't suppress Lin Sun when they attacked together. Bang! In the end, although the old man managed to avoid the attack, the force of the fist had shattered a huge rock beside him into pieces. Some of the stones smashed into his body, causing him to feel a piercing pain all over his body. "Ah!" someone shouted. It was a middle-aged man on the other side. His defense was broken by Lin Sun's fist strength. His shoulder was broken, and he flew backward with a scream. In the distance, Lin Ji and others all changed their expressions. Lin Sun was so strong that even several seniors couldn't suppress his ferocity. It was incredible. In the eyes of Young Ku and Vulture, Lin Sun was like a young demon at this time. He was unstoppable and invincible, which shocked them and made their hearts tremble. Boom! Suddenly, a monstrous clear light rushed up. This was just Lin Sun's fist light. It was like a lightning across the sky, overbearing and unparalleled. It was so brilliant. A middle-aged man resisted and exerted all his strength. But in the end, his chest was smashed by Lin Sun's fist, leaving a bowl-sized bloody hole. He died on the spot. This was a senior in the late stage of Sea Spirit Realm. He had been immersed in martial arts for decades, but he was killed like a chicken or a pottery dog. Many people were chilled. Lin Sun's fist strength was so strong that it could easily crush Earth-grade spiritual weapons and blow up Sea of Soul Realm experts. Its power was unstoppable, and this was just the fifth superposition of 9 strikes for shaking heaven. With a swish, a light flashed. Lin Sun's clothes fluttered. His black eyes were as deep as the abyss, and his body was shrouded in blazing light. He attacked another old man again. Whoosh! The old man roared and took out a jade ruler, which was like a red glow in the sky. This jade ruler was actually a spiritual treasure, with mysterious patterns flowing and glittering, flashing a terrible breath. At the same time, a beautiful middle-aged woman on the other side also moved. Her palm was gushing with light, and a long purple whip swept out to tie Lin Sun. This was another spirit treasure called the soul-grasping whip. Once it was bound, even one's soul would be imprisoned. It was a great weapon of mass destruction. Boom! Around Lin Sun, endless brilliance rose like a clear sea, illuminating the sky and blocking the jade ruler. At the same time, he grabbed the soul whip with his bare hands. Between his palms and fingers, there was an unpredictable power, as if the sun, the moon, and the galaxy were running inside. In an instant, the area rumbled, the clouds collapsed, the nearby rocks and vegetation were all powdered, and the earth cracked. The battle between sea spirit realm experts could destroy the 9 heavens and the mountains and rivers. How could the power of the battle be compared with ordinary people? Puff! Soon, the old man holding the jade ruler was injured and coughed up blood. He looked horrified. This boy was only in his teens, but he was so strong. What would happen when he grew up in the future? In front of the gate of Heart-Cleansing Peak, many disciples of Northlight Lin also appeared. Seeing this scene, they all shouted with excitement. During this period of time, they had suffered a lot of grievances and humiliation. Now Lin Sun appeared and fought for them, which made their blood boil with excitement. On the other side, Lin Ji's face had become gloomy. Lin Sun's strength was beyond her imagination, which made her feel cold. She couldn't imagine how powerful Lin Sun would be if he was given a few more years to grow up. Fortunately, Lin Sun was doomed to be killed this time. Because Lin Ji knew that neither they, Zhou family nor Qin family would miss this opportunity to kill Lin Sun. Boom! In the field, the fierce battle was getting fiercer and fiercer. Lin Sun was like a demon. He punched directly on the jade ruler and shook it away. The old man was like being pushed by a mountain. His bones were instantly shattered by the terrible punch. His internal organs were bleeding. He screamed and fell to the ground, unable to stand up again. His cultivation was shattered under this punch. He was seriously injured and dying. Even if he was lucky enough to survive in the future, he was no different from a disabled person. Whoosh! Lin Sun's fingers were like lightning. He grabbed the soul-leading whip like a dragon's claw from the clouds and shook it fiercely. An indescribable terrible force like a landslide and tsunami suddenly exploded along the soul-leading whip and spread toward the middle-aged beautiful woman. With a bang like an electric shock, the middle-aged beautiful woman screamed. Her whole right arm was smashed, and blood and flesh flew everywhere. Her hair was disheveled, and she was scared out of her wits. She was completely shocked and frightened. She turned around and fled. This young man was too terrifying. He was clearly only a little over 10 years of age, yet his cultivation was already formidable to an unprecedented extent. He was simply like a king that couldn't be shaken. "You've come here. Do you want to leave?" Lin Sun drew a line with his fingers, and a bright light swept out, tearing the void and shooting away. Puff! The middle-aged beautiful woman was running in a panic. Before she could dodge, her back was pierced. She let out a hysterical scream and then fell to the ground. So far, 3 Sea Spirit Realm practitioners of the older generation were killed, and the other one was still struggling. Young Ku, Vulture and others were surprised. When Lin Sun first took charge of Heart-Cleansing Peak, he was only a teenager in Heavengang Realm. But now, he had reached the peak of Sea Spirit Realm. He was like a young eagle spreading its wings and a young phoenix crying. Those disciples of Northlight Lin were also very excited. Lin soon showed his great power and suppressed all the enemies, making them dazzled and unable to control themselves. On Lin Ji's side, a group of men and women were frightened. Many of them were trembling. Lin Sun was invincible with his bare hands. He killed the Sea Spirit Realm practitioners of the older generation as easily as cutting chive. This bloody picture was too frightening. Lin Ji's heart was bleeding. The loss was too serious. She didn't expect that Lin Sun alone could defeat them. While Lin Ji and others were shocked, there was a scream in the field. It was the last practitioner. He was directly punched on the top of his head by Lin Sun. His body exploded, and his flesh and blood flew everywhere. He was directly killed. This scene was too bloody and violent, causing many people to shiver all over. "Are Zhuo Yang and Qin Xing both here?" Lin Ji screamed. At this moment she was really scared. Even the talent couldn't be so strong. All the Sea Spirit Realm practitioners of the older generation were slaughtered by Lin Sun together. How could Lin Ji not be shocked and frightened? She no longer had her previous conceit and arrogance. Her mean and cold look was replaced by fear. Indeed, Lin Ji didn't expect that Lin Sun dared to kill as soon as he appeared. It was completely different from the forbearance and concession shown by those people of heart-cleansing peak before. Boom! Lin Sun didn't hesitate at all. He flashed and swooped down like an ice dragon towards Lin Ji. He hated this woman so much. She hurt Lin Yunwen and even boasted that she would take back heart-cleansing peak. She was so arrogant and ugly. "Little guy, it's not good to kill too much." Suddenly, a thunderous voice resounded through the field. A Tao Insight Realm practitioner. As soon as the voice sounded, a black light emerged, covering the sky and the earth. It turned into a big hand and slapped at Lin Sun across the air. In an instant, Young Ku, Vulture, Lin Zhong and Zhu Laosan in the distance all narrowed their eyes. Lin Ji showed a touch of ecstasy. It was finally here. "Who do you think you are? Get out of here!" Lin Sun didn't dodge at all. His cold eyes glowed and he shouted to the sky. In his hand, 6 layers of heaven-shaking punches swept up like a galaxy, bright and terrible, and collided with the big hand. Chapter 475. Rumble. This area was like a volcanic eruption, causing great turbulence. The sound shook the sky. In the turbulence, a skinny old man with sunken eye sockets appeared in the field. His whole body was surging with the aura of the Tao Insight Realm. Smoke and dust filled the air, and Lin Sun's figure appeared. His clothes were fluttering, his black hair was flying, and his handsome face was indifferent. He was unscathed. There was a sound of gasping in the field. Even the blow of a strong practitioner of Tao Insight Realm was blocked by this young man. Looking at the entire Forbidden City, there might not be many people who could do this. "I underestimated you." The skinny old man's eyes also flashed a strange color. He sneered and jumped forward to continue to kill Lin Sun. "How dare you!" Lin Zhong rushed out. He looked mediocre and honest before. But as soon as he appeared, he seemed to become another person. His back was straight and his eyes were shining. He seemed to overlook the 90,000 miles of mountains and rivers, and his prestige was soaring to the sky. Tan White Horse Shin Jingluan. Vulture's eyes brightened. This guy finally made a move. Those disciples of Northlight Lin were all shocked. They didn't expect that the old attendant who had been guarding Heart-Cleansing Peak was a strong practitioner of Tao Insight Realm. "You want to kill my young master?" Lin Zhong walked in the void, and his figure released white divine light. He did change. His demeanor was arrogant, and there was a kind of unstoppable peerless style. A long time ago, he was the 3rd in the nation test, and was praised by the current emperor. Now, after so many years, he was like a dormant dragon that reappeared in the world today. The skinny old man's face suddenly changed. He was surprised and said, "You didn't die?" I dare not die without revenge. Lin Zhong's voice was bleak, and there was an imperceptible sadness in his eyes. He confronted the skinny old man from a distance. Grandad Zhong, I'll leave him to you. Kill him if he dares to attack me. As Lin Sun spoke, he performed the ice drake steps and continued to rush toward Lin Ji, appearing to be extremely powerful. Little thing, how dare you act violently? You're courting death. The skinny old man was furious. He stretched out his hand and grasped. The void burst. A palm wind emerged, and the wind and thunder were surging, filled with the power of Tao Insight Realm. At practically the exact same time, Lin Zhong moved as well. He didn't seem to move at all, but strand after strand of sharp sword chi charged into the sky, and they were brilliant like divine rainbows as they covered this expanse of heaven and earth. Instantly, the two of them engaged in a fierce battle that caused the world to darken and the sun and moon to lose their light. Don't you dare! At the same time, Lin Ji screamed and her face turned pale. She didn't expect that even a Tao Insight Realm Master couldn't scare Lin Sun. Moreover, he seemed as if he wouldn't stop until he killed her, and this caused Lin Ji to be terrified and uneasy. Hee, you're just a small remnant of the Lin family. You don't even know that you're facing imminent disaster. What are you waiting for? Suddenly, another shocking sneer resounded out, and it rumbled like thunder, causing the ears of many cultivators in the surroundings to drone while their souls trembled, and they were extremely astounded. Another Tao Insight Realm cultivator. It was a black-robed man with sharp eyes. As soon as he appeared, a horrible power pressed towards Lin Sun. Senior Qin. Lin Ji was overjoyed at once. This was a Tao Insight Realm Master of the Qin family. He had been at the top for many years, and now he followed Qin Xing to protect Qin Xing. Lin Sun, you're dead. Lin Ji scolded harshly and returned to her mean appearance. However, Lin Sun didn't retreat at all. He still rushed towards her, but he ordered, Zhu Laosan, it's your turn. Don't hold back. Kill anyone who stands in your way. Boom. Zhu Laosan didn't say a word. His majestic and towering figure flashed and rushed into the arena like a god of slaughter fighting in purgatory. Bang, bang, bang. With his appearance, the void was shattered and collapsed, as if it couldn't bear the bloody murderous spirit from him. The horrible power made people in the distance feel numb and tremble. Lin Sun was too strong. Huh! The black-robed man, Qinin, couldn't help narrowing his eyes and feeling surprised in his heart. What a strong murderous spirit! Boom! Zhu Laosan didn't talk nonsense at all. A blood-red divine rainbow rushed up and turned into a sky full of saber shadows. It crossed the void and attacked Lin Sun. He was serious and expressionless, with an indescribable solemnity. Lin Ji was complacent, thinking that she had finally escaped, but in the blink of an eye, the situation changed again, which made her a little confused. At this time, Lin Sun had already arrived. Boom. It had to be said that Lin Ji was also a tough character. She was in danger, but she didn't escape. Instead, she gritted her teeth and attacked first. A big golden seal emerged, full of spiritual light. Vaguely, the figure of a fierce beast emerged and rushed to Lin Sun. Bian Beast Seal. It was also a kind of rare treasure. It was said that it was a famous ancient treasure in ancient times. With one blow, the mountains and rivers collapsed, the sun and the moon shattered, and the universe collapsed. Its power was monstrous. However, the seal in Lin Ji's hand was naturally not the real Bian Beast Seal, but a replica. It was slightly stronger than a spiritual weapon and almost the same as a spiritual treasure. This was naturally not a problem for Lin Sun. Boom! Lin Sun waved his fist, which resonated with the void, and smashed at the fierce shadow of Bian. With a loud bang, a rain of light scattered, and the fierce shadow exploded into pieces before it could show its power. Many people were astounded and completely dumbstruck. Just how great of a power did one have to possess to accomplish this? At the same time, Lin Sun rushed to Lin Ji. I'll kill you! Lin Ji screamed and used her secret method. Among the young people of this generation of Lin family, she could be regarded as a leading figure. She had excellent means and extraordinary talent, and had already reached Sea Spirit Realm. Unfortunately, she met Lin Sun. Bang! Lin Sun shattered her secret method with one kick, and she coughed up blood. Lin Ji exerted all her strength to struggle and resist, but under Lin Sun's attack, it was like breaking dry weeds and smashing rotten wood. In just a moment she screamed and had to dodge. Swish! Lin Sun's fingers swept out like a dragon's claw, wrapped in green light. Although Lin Ji tried her best to dodge, a large piece of her clothes was torn off, and one of her arms was exposed. There were 5 bloody scratches on her skin, which were deep to the bone and dripping with blood. Lin Ji screamed in pain. She was horrified and terrified. She could feel a fatal threat looming over her. Bang! Unfortunately, it was too late for her to dodge. Lin Sun grabbed her neck and lifted her up directly. "How dare you bring people to show off in front of heart-cleansing Peak?" Lin Sun's voice was cold, which slapped Lin Ji's face like a whip, which made her feel pain and endless shame. Many people were shocked. All these changes happened too fast. The skinny old man and Qin, 2 strong practitioners of Tao Insight Realm, appeared one after another, but they failed to suppress Lin Sun. On the contrary, Lin Zhong and Zhu Laosan fought fiercely with Lin Sun. At the same time, Lin Sun made a strong attack and captured Lin Ji in one fell swoop. How could people not be shocked? Lin Ji was a strong and conceited person in the past. Many people in the collateral generation of Lin family dared not to provoke her. But now, she was suppressed by Lin Sun. Her hair was disheveled, and she was held by Lin Sun like a chicken. There was no doubt that this was a great shame for her. Being held by Lin Sun in front of so many people was more uncomfortable than being killed. God, Lin Sun is too strong. On the side of Northlight Lin, many people shouted excitedly with their eyes wide open and their hearts full of joy. Cough, cough, cough. Lin Ji coughed violently. It was very uncomfortable to be held by Lin Sun. She wanted to scream, but as soon as she opened her mouth, she felt that she was suffocated. Bang! Lin Sun threw her to the ground. Lin Ji twitched in pain and her face twisted. At the same time, she was extremely angry. When had she been treated like this? "Kill me if you dare." Lin Ji could finally make a sound and screamed resentfully. Lin Sun looked down at her and said indifferently, "Even if you don't ask me to kill you, I will kill you. You are a disgrace to Lin family." A sharp cold light emerged from Lin Sun's fingertip. Seeing this, many people's faces changed. Was Lin Sun really going to kill them? Even Young Ko frowned. If he did so, it would be tantamount to tearing off all pretenses at once. Next, Heart-Cleansing Peak would have a head-on war with the collateral forces of Lin family. "You! How dare you!" Lin Ji was shocked. She screamed and trembled all over. Was this guy really not afraid of fighting with them? Wasn't he afraid of being suppressed by Zhou family and Qin family? Puff! Without hesitation, no mercy, and even without a frown, a cold light fell and cut off Lin Ji's throat. "You actually, really dared." Before dying, Lin Ji opened her eyes wide and looked at the indifferent and calm face of the young man in front of her, full of unwillingness and confusion. She didn't understand where Lin Sun got the confidence to do so. On the side of Northlight Lin, and some other disciples of Lin family, who had already escaped far away, were all shocked and dull at this moment. Killed. Lin Sun actually killed Lin Ji. According to the seniority of Lin family, he should call Lin Ji his cousin. But now, Lin Ji died in his hands. Most importantly, Lin Ji's identity was not simple. Killing her was tantamount to tearing off all pretenses. If the collateral forces of Lin family knew it, it was bound to lead to a head-on conflict. This result was too unexpected. Such a rebellious person who deceives his master and kills his ancestors. If I don't kill him, I will be ashamed of the ancestors of Lin family. Lin Sun looked indifferent, and there was an oppressive majesty on his handsome face. His voice resounded through the whole audience. From now on, anyone who doesn't repent and blindly becomes the enemy of heart-cleansing Peak, no matter who he is or what his identity is, must pay the price of blood. His voice was sonorous and resounding, and it was filled with a killing intent that struck directly at the heart, causing many people to be unable to help but shudder. Lin Sun's words were not only for Westbrook, Floating Cloud and Flying Peak Lin to hear, but also for Northlight Lin to understand that he could never tolerate this kind of thing. This was the bottom line that no one could touch. Above the void, several strong practitioners of Tao Insight Realm were still fighting fiercely. On the ground, people's eyes changed when they looked at Lin Sun. No one dared to treat him as a young man anymore. His decisive means made them fully realize that this young man was now the head of Lin family and the ruler of heart-cleansing Peak. Good means. You even dare to kill your own clansmen. Now I finally understand why you dare to force Marquis Lingtian to kneel down. At this time, a proud and indifferent voice sounded in the field. With the voice, a young man in purple robe paced with his hands behind his back. Chapter 476. The young man wore a violet robe, had a heroic bearing, and an extraordinary bearing. The imposing aura around his body seemed to be seething, and he was like a blazing furnace that was extremely terrifying. That was the manifestation of his blood and chi being refined to a terrifying level. A group of attendants, both male and female, followed behind the young man like stars surrounding the moon, which made him more extraordinary. Zhuoyang. In an instant, many people in the field recognized the identity of the young man in a purple robe. He was a dazzling genius of the young generation of Zhua clan with outstanding talent. There was no doubt that the attendants behind Zhuoyang were all from Zhua clan. Zhua clan was one of the 7 top aristocratic families with great power and deep foundation. There was still a life-death realm king in Zhua clan. Seeing them appear, young Ku, Vulture and the others all showed a touch of seriousness. The mastermind hiding behind the scenes had come. 6th uncle, stop for the time being. As soon as Zhuoyang arrived, he looked up at the sky and gave an order. Boom! The skinny old man who was fighting fiercely with Lin Zhong suddenly roared and got out of the battle. With a flash, he returned to the young man in a purple robe. Obviously, the skinny old man was Zhuoyang's 6th uncle. Qinan, you come back too. On the other side, a voice as heavy as iron suddenly sounded. With the voice, a dignified young man in black clothes with gray hair also strode over. He was surrounded by dense metal-like breath. His eyes were shining like stars, and he walked like a dragon and a tiger, with a kind of calm demeanor. Like Zhuoyang, the young man was also followed by a group of attendants. Qin Xing. He was the descendant of Qin clan, a famous genius in the Forbidden City. He had the talent property of golden bone physique, and his potential was unfathomable. Vulture and young Ku looked more dignified. It seemed that there was bound to be a big storm today since the power of Qin clan also appeared. Grandad Zhong, Zhu Laosan, you come back too. Lin Sun said calmly. He didn't know Zhuoyang and Qin Xing, but he could judge that they must be from Zhua clan and Qin clan. After the battle in the void, Zhu Laosan and Lin Zhong stood behind Lin Sun. Lin Zhong looked worried. Zhu Laosan remained silent. On the other hand, the group from the Zhua clan and the group from the Qin clan had arrived, causing the situation to become like a tripartite confrontation. But everyone knew that the Zhua family and the Qin family were allies, and they were going to target Lin Sun. Young Ku, Vulture, and the Northlight Lin clansmen all realized the seriousness of the problem and knew that the real threat was coming. Previously, Lin Ji and the group of Lin family collateral relatives were just a group of small fries. If they were killed, then so be it. It was a conflict within the Lin family. The appearance of the Zhua family and the Qin family meant that this internal conflict had escalated to the point where they were fighting against external enemies. The Zhua and Qin families. They were all ranked in the ranks of the 7 top aristocratic clans. Their background was monstrous, and they had countless masters. Their forces dominated the Forbidden City, like a behemoth that deterred the Empire. But now, Heart-Cleansing Peak was not even a low-class aristocratic family. Just such a comparison made people feel desperate and cold. Are you Lin Sun? I thought you hid in Heart-Cleansing Peak and dared not show your face. I didn't expect that as soon as you appeared, you would kill the clansmen of your Lin family. It's really an eye-opener for me, Zhuoyang said with his hands behind his back. There was a touch of conceit in his calm face. His voice was playful and sarcastic. This is the internal affairs of Lin family. What does it have to do with you? Who do you think you are? You dare to intervene in the affairs of Lin family. Aren't you afraid of being killed? Lin Sun asked back. His expression was indifferent and his words were even more impolite. This shocked young Ku and Vulture. They realized that Lin Sun was really desperate today. He didn't care about anything and just wanted to vent his anger. Is it okay? Young Ku couldn't help asking. We have been in a desperate situation before. Now Lin Sun wants to break the situation by force. It's not a bad way, but it's a little risky. Vulture looked calm, and his clear eyes were surging with wisdom. How dare you? How dare you be rude to our young master? Apologize quickly. Are you really tired of living? When they heard Lin Sun's words, the attendants behind Zhuoyang were furious and shouted. This was the territory of Lin family before Heart-Cleansing Peak. But these attendants dared to teach Lin Sun a lesson, which showed how arrogant Zhuo family was. You are just a group of dog slaves. If you dare to bark again, you can't leave today. Lin Sun's words made the attendants angry. This boy was so arrogant. Didn't he have eyes? Couldn't he see the situation clearly? Junior, you are courting death. Zhuoyang's 6th uncle was also enraged. Old dog, it's you who is courting death. Lin Sun's black eyes were cold. How dare you intervene in the internal affairs of Lin family and shout in front of me? Believe it or not, I will cut off your tongue. Many people gasped. The skinny old man, named Zhuo Xingjin, was the 6th uncle of Zhuoyang, a senior in Tao Insight Realm. But Lin Sun was not afraid of him at all. He scolded the old dog and wanted to cut off his tongue. Zhuo Xingjin was so angry that he laughed. Little guy, you are really not afraid of death. Do you think you dare to challenge our Zhuo family with the little power of Heart-Cleansing Peak? Immediately, he looked cold and said, I'm not afraid to tell you that it won't take long for your Lin family to be exterminated. Old dog, do you only know how to shout? Lin Sun squinted at him without fear. The clansmen of Northlight Lin were all shocked. Although they had heard that Lin Sun forced Marquis Lingtian to kneel down, they didn't see it with their own eyes. Now, they finally saw Lin Sun's arrogance and strength. Zhuo Xingjin was so angry that he almost coughed up blood. Who could bear this boy calling him old dog? Ha! There was a burst of laughter on the other side. It was a group of practitioners of Qin family who were watching the fun. They couldn't help laughing. This made the practitioners of Zhuo family more and more embarrassed. They couldn't wait to eat Lin Sun alive and burn his bones to ashes. Zhuo Xingjin was just about to say something, but he was stopped by Zhuoyang. 6th uncle, leave Lin Sun to me. As he spoke, he strode out with a cold look. His whole body was like a burning stove, steaming with terrible spiritual light. Zhuoyang was really extraordinary. He could release such power by running his breath naturally. He was absolutely a top figure in Sea Spirit Realm. Lin Sun couldn't help narrowing his eyes. He had to admit that as one of the top aristocratic families, the Zhuo family could cultivate such a brilliant figure as Zhuoyang. Lin Sun, do you dare to fight with me? Zhuoyang opened his mouth. His eyes were like sharp blades. He locked on Lin Sun and his voice was like thunder. Do you want to fight with me? Lin Sun was a little surprised. Yes. Zhuoyang's eyes were sharp and aggressive. I heard that you once defeated Qi Songfeng and forced Marquis Lingtian to kneel. I'm curious whether the rumor is true, so I want to try it myself. Undoubtedly, Zhuoyang was proud. He wanted to suppress Lin Sun with his own strength, which fully proved that he had absolute confidence in his strength. Many people on Heart Cleansing Peak changed their faces slightly. Zhuoyang obviously came prepared. But Lin Sun shook his head and said, "No, you are not qualified." His voice was casual, as if he was talking about a trivial matter. All the people present were stunned. Zhuoyang was a talent who had been famous in the Forbidden City for a long time. How dazzling he was! But Lin Sun thought that Zhuoyang was not qualified to challenge him. "Brat, could it be that you're afraid? Don't you dare to fight with my young master?" A servant of Zhuo family shouted. "I think this guy is only good at talking. What a coward!" Those people of Zhuo family also spoke out, making all kinds of sarcasm and humiliation to Lin Sun. "Oh, you guys are really shameless." Lin Sun dared to force Marquis Lingtian to kneel at the birthday banquet of the Empress. Who dares? On the side of Northlight Lin, someone couldn't help shouting, "Want to fight with Lin Sun? Your young master is really not qualified." Zhuo family was speechless. Now everyone in the Forbidden City knew that Marquis Lingtian was forced to kneel. If Lin Sun was a coward, how dare he do this? "Humph, Marquis Lingtian is Ling Tianho. My young master is my young master. Lin Sun, if you are afraid, just take the initiative to admit defeat." The man of Zhuo family shouted. Seeing the noise here like a farce, the people of Qin family couldn't help but laugh. The dignified Zhuo family quarreled with a kid like a shrew. It's shameful. Hey, I didn't expect that this generation of Zhuo family was so unbearable to be humiliated by Lin Sun. What a joke. Zhuoyang's face suddenly became gloomy. Everyone around him also looked at Qin family angrily. These guys dared to fan the fire. It was really hateful. "Well, I'll deal with Lin Sun." Qin Xing walked out with a smile. His figure was dignified and full of metal-like sharpness. He walked like a dragon and a tiger with outstanding grace. "Lin Sun is my opponent." Zhuoyang looked cold. At the same time, a scorching and terrible burning breath spread from his body and confronted Qin Xing. "What a joke! You can't stop me from doing what I want to do." Qin Xing's face also became cold, full of absolute conceit. In an instant, the atmosphere in the field changed. No one expected that Qin Xing, who had been watching on the sidelines, couldn't help intervening. The scene became silent for a while. Both Zhuoyang and Qin Xing were outstanding geniuses, and the forces behind them were monstrous. How could people not be surprised that such influential figures were competing for the opportunity to fight with Lin Sun? I see. No matter who defeats Lin Sun, he will undoubtedly surpass Hua Wuyo, Qi Tsongfeng, and Marquis Lingtian. After all, these people were defeated by Lin Sun. Someone of Northlight Lin whispered. They want to step on Lin Sun and become famous in one fell swoop. All of a sudden, many people also understood that Lin Sun was like a peak of the younger generation. Whoever could step on him would definitely become famous in the empire. Chapter 477. As a prodigy from a superior clan, he had no lack of cultivation resources. However, it was not as easy as it seemed to say that he wanted to prove himself and gain the reputation that he deserved. After all, experts were as numerous as the clouds in the world, and there would never be a lack of monstrous geniuses. It was truly not easy to make a name for oneself in a crowd of experts. But if one seized the opportunity, he could become famous. For example, Lin Sun defeated Hua Wuyo, which made him famous in the Forbidden City. He defeated Qi Tsongfeng and forced Marquis Lingtianhao to kneel, which made him the most famous figure in the young generation. Both Zhuoyang and Qin Xing had been famous for a long time. But for some reason they missed the birthday banquet of the Empress, so they naturally missed the opportunity to make a name for themselves. Now in the Forbidden City, Anyone would think that Zhuoyang and Qin Xing were not as good as Bai Lingshi, Song Yi and Yu Qizhe. This was the influence of fame. Even if Zhuoyang and Qin Xing were confident that they were not inferior to any of the top talents, it was difficult for them to find an opportunity to prove it. But now the opportunity came. As long as they defeated Lin Sun, it would be enough to make their reputation skyrocket. Because Lin Sun had participated in the birthday banquet of the Empress and defeated Hua Wuyo, Qi Tsongfeng and Marquis Ling Tianhao. If they could defeat Lin Sun, it undoubtedly proved that their strength was superior to these top talents. Therefore, Zhuoyang and Qin Xing would not miss this opportunity. Undoubtedly, in their hearts, they had regarded Lin Sun as prey and a stepping stone to make a name for themselves. Qin Xing, you are so aggressive and want to snatch my prey. Don't you worry about causing a conflict between our families? Zhuoyang threatened Qin Xing with a cold look. What a joke! Can you represent your Zhuo family? I'm telling you, it's definitely me who will defeat Lin Sun today, not you. Qin Xing laughed and wantonly. Now all the people of Zhuo family and Qin family changed their faces. They didn't expect that the top talents of the two families would quarrel first at this time. Even the clansmen of Northlight Lin in front of the gate of Heart-Cleansing Peak in the distance couldn't help but look at each other. These two guys were really arrogant. It was too arrogant to regard Lin Sun as prey without Lin's consent from beginning to end. Why don't the two of you fight first? Whoever wins will have the qualifications to challenge me. How about it? However, Lin Sun was not angry at all. Instead, he showed a bright smile and made a proposal. How dare you? Shut up. Zhuoyang and Qin Xing were furious and scolded Lin Sun. Zhuoyang, if you take a step back this time, I can defeat Lin Sun first, and then give you a chance to challenge me to decide the winner between us. What do you think? Qin Xing took a deep breath. If you take a step back, I can also give you a chance to challenge me. Zhuoyang's eyes were aggressive and he refused to budge. Seeing that the situation was getting more and more tense, Lin Sun smiled more brilliantly and said, It seems that you have to fight first. Let's fight then. I promise I won't interfere and give you a chance to perform freely. You're courting death. Zhuoyang was furious. Do you have the right to butt in here? Wait there obediently. This young master will personally take care of you later. Qin Xing's voice was cold. Obviously, in their minds, Lin Sun had no choice at all. He was regarded as prey and could only wait for death. Lin Sun stopped smiling, put his hands behind his back, and said in a low voice, Well, since you two are eager to die, why don't you fight together? In this way, you are almost qualified to fight with me. All the people present were shocked. Originally, Zhuoyang and Qin Xing's performance was arrogant enough, but Lin Sun's words were more aggressive than theirs. He actually wanted to fight against them alone. Damn it, this guy deserves to die. The clansmen of Zhuo and Qin families all shouted angrily and glared at Lin Sun. I'll kill you. At this moment, Zhuoyang couldn't bear it any longer. He attacked first. Whoosh! Zhuoyang's figure disappeared directly like a dreamy shadow, and then suddenly appeared in front of Lin Sun. Boom! He raised his right hand, which was blazing and turned into a big bloody millstone, rumbling like a real dragon. This was Blood Dragon Seal, one of the famous ancient secret skills of Zhuo family. As soon as he attacked, the void exploded and the whole area shook violently. Although they already knew that Zhuoyang was not simple, they were still shocked when they saw this scene. This kind of power was too strong, and the murderous spirit was soaring to the sky. Blood Dragon Seal seemed to be a simple attack, but if it were any other practitioner, they would definitely be smashed into ashes, and their bones would be ground into ashes. Zhuoyang sneered. Blood Dragon Seal was mysterious. He had defeated many talents with it and was invincible. Of course, he also knew that Lin Sun was very strong, otherwise it would be impossible for him to defeat Marquis Ling Tian. But Zhuoyang was very confident that Lin Sun was doomed to be defeated by him. But Lin Sun just smiled brightly and casually punched out. Arrogant! How dare you look down on me? You're courting death. Zhuoyang sneered, thinking that Lin Sun was extremely arrogant and obviously courting death. He shouted, and the palm that had turned into a bloody millstone became brighter and brighter. Faint dragon roars resounded, threatening to shock the universe. Obviously, Zhuoyang wanted to end the battle with one blow. He wanted to establish his power here, and not give Qin Shing any chance to intervene. Therefore, he forcibly operated his power and did not hesitate to use his potential. He was cautious, knowing that Lin Sun was strong and could not be underestimated. Lin Sun's careless and frivolous attitude filled him with confidence, thinking that Lin Sun would be defeated because of his carelessness. Boom! It was too fast. In an instant, the place shook violently, and the blood light scattered in all directions, accompanied by the rumbling sound of an explosion. A figure flew out with blood spurting from his mouth and nose. Originally, seeing Zhuoyang rush out and attack first, Qin Shing was furious and also attacked from the side. He did not want to give the chance to defeat Lin Sun to Zhuoyang. But when he saw this scene, Qin Shing's body froze, and his lips twitched imperceptibly. He felt pain for Zhuoyang, because Zhuoyang was directly blown away by a punch, as if he was swatting a fly. The unparalleled power made people's hearts tremble. Ah! Zhuoyang screamed and hit a rock in the distance. Gravel flew everywhere, and smoke and dust filled the air. He felt pain all over his body, and he was a little dazed. What was going on? It felt like he was hit by an ancient bull. His muscles and bones were almost broken, and his chest was stuffy. He wanted to cough up blood. How could this be? How could the blood dragon seal be broken so easily? Everyone present was stunned. Originally, the Zhuo family was going to cheer for their young master, but they never thought that such a scene would happen as soon as the fight began. Zhuoyang was the pride of the young generation of the Zhuo family. He used the secret method of the blood dragon seal, and his momentum was overwhelming. How could he be blown away by a punch? Not to mention Zhuoyang, even the others present were a little dazed. On the other side, Qin Shing, who was originally charging forward, retreated. He realized that something was wrong and decided to watch from the side. He wanted to use Zhuoyang to test Lin Sun's real strength. Perhaps this would lose the opportunity to defeat Lin Sun in one fell swoop, but there was no doubt that it was the wisest way. I told you, you're not qualified. Lin Sun smiled brightly, but in the eyes of the Zhuo family, his smile was indescribably hateful. They gritted their teeth in hatred. Come on, too. Don't hide, or I'll look down on you. Lin Sun squinted at Qin Shing. Qin Shing's face was gloomy. This boy was too arrogant, but in the end, he restrained himself. He felt that Lin Sun dared to do this because he must have a trump card. At this time Zhuoyang roared. His blood and qi were boiling as if they were burning. He stood up in front of the rock, and his momentum was even stronger. After all, he was not an ordinary person. He realized that he had been careless just now, and at this time, he did not intend to give Lin Sun any chance. Boom! His body was like a furnace and his bones crackled. His blood and qi were like divine rainbows that shot into the sky. He operated the power of the complete sea spirit realm to the extreme. Lin Sun, you will lose today. You are destined to be a stepping stone on the road of my rise. Zhuoyang's long hair fluttered in the wind. Around him, his blood and qi were surging like smoke, and it developed a terrifying power of incineration. The great sky-burning art. The clansmen of the Zhuo clan were all excited. This was the inheritance of the Zhuo clan, and non-core disciples had no chance to come into contact with it. Cut the crap. Do you only know how to talk big? Lin Sun scolded. Kill! Zhuoyang was so angry that his eyes turned red. He used his trump card and was humiliated in front of so many people. How could he tolerate it? Rumble, layers of bloody light shot out like furnaces. They floated around Zhuoyang, and the flames were boiling as if they were going to burn the sky. Even the void was distorted. This scene was very shocking. It actually contained the power of an artistic conception, which was unprecedented. It was enough to show how terrifying the great sky-burning art was. It was worthy of being the ultimate technique of the Zhou clan. Lin Sun's eyes were overflowing with cold light. He felt the power of an artistic conception, which belonged to the Tao of Fire. It was extremely terrifying. Go to hell! Zhuoyang shot into the sky, and the furnaces suppressed the void one after another. They poured out waves of fire like a collapsing volcano, and were going to melt the entire area. So this guy has become so powerful. No wonder he dared to fight with me. On the other side, Qin Shing's eyes flickered. But Lin Sun smiled slightly, and then a punch burst out. Boom! A dazzling light green light was like a dragon from the depths of the abyss. It illuminated the mountains and rivers, and it was dazzling and blazing. It was the 9 strikes of shaking heaven superimposed with the 6 forces. When he was in the ancient spirit world, even a Tao Insight Realm cultivator had been shaken by this punch. It could be said to be peerless. For a time, light collided, strong winds swept, and brilliant spiritual light poured down and covered the furnaces. This scene was too shocking. It shocked everyone and made their hearts palpitate. Soon, a scream sounded out. Zhuoyang was blasted away. He was seriously injured this time. His whole body was bleeding, and his skin was cracked. His body twitched because of the pain. He used the secret of the great sky-burning art, which was his strongest technique. He thought he could suppress Lin Sun, but he didn't expect that his power would be shattered in just a moment, and his body was almost killed. Chapter 478. Plop! Zhuoyang fell to the ground and coughed up blood in the process. It was just a punch, but he seemed to be seriously injured and couldn't stand up again. All the people present were stiff and couldn't believe it. Great sky-burning method! This was the unique skill of Zhou family. Zhuoyang, who was at the peak of cultivation, was defeated and suppressed in a single blow. Who could believe it? All the clansmen of Zhou family were dumbfounded. It was so embarrassing that Zhuoyang was defeated at the first blow. The clansmen of Qin family were shocked. They had all seen that it was not that Zhuoyang was not strong enough, but that Lin Sun had reached a terrible level in Sea Spirit Realm. If their young master Qin Shing had taken the initiative to attack just now, thinking of this, the faces of the clansmen of Qin family changed, and they didn't dare to think about it anymore. At this time, even young Ku, Vulture, Lin Zhong and Zhu Laosan were surprised. After Lin Sun came out of the closed-door practice, he had changed a lot. He was so extraordinary that his fighting capacity was much stronger than before. I told you that you are not qualified to challenge me, but you didn't believe me. Are you satisfied now? Lin Sun's figure flashed and fell beside Zhuoyang. He picked him up and smiled brightly. But the smile was so dazzling in Zhuoyang's eyes that he was about to go crazy. He roared and struggled to fight again. But as soon as he moved, he coughed up blood again and again. His eyes were dim. Obviously, the injury he suffered just now was so serious that he was unable to struggle. Lin Sun, don't be complacent. Zhuoyang screamed and his hair was disheveled. He was arrogant and conceited before, but now he was covered with blood, seriously injured, and imprisoned by Lin Sun. Compared with him, he looked extremely pitiful and couldn't help sighing. How dare you! Let go of my young master. Young man, don't make a mistake. You did win this battle. Let go of Zhuoyang, or not only you but the whole heart-cleansing peak will be destroyed. Those practitioners of Zhou family shouted angrily. They were worried that Zhuoyang would be killed by Lin Sun, so they threatened Lin Sun. Lin Sun smiled and threw Zhuoyang to Lin Zhong like throwing garbage. He said, "Keep an eye on him. Whoever dares to kill him first. Rest assured, young master." Lin Zhong lifted Zhuoyang up like a chicken. He was a Tao Insight Realm cultivator. It was conceivable that he could easily kill Zhuang with just a little force. "You're courting death." The clansmen of the Zhou clan were enraged to the point that their eyes almost popped out of their sockets. Never had they expected that Lin Sun would be so fearless as to detain Zhuang and even threaten them with Zhuang's life. He deserved to be hacked into pieces. "Lin Sun, do you know what you are doing?" The skinny old man's Xingjin's expression was cold. His tone was threatening and murderous. "If young Master Zhuang is in trouble, none of you will be able to withstand the thunderous anger of the Zhou family. Old dog, you still dare to threaten me at this time?" Lin Sun frowned. "Grandad Zhong, I think it's better to kill Zhuang first." "No dash!" Zhuang screamed in fear. He was really scared. Lin Sun was an unscrupulous person. Even Marquis Lingtian was forced to kneel down by him. What else did he not dare to do? Especially just now, Zhuang saw with his own eyes that Lin Sun even killed Lin Ji, who was his cousin. Under such circumstances, Zhuang was really scared. "Don't mess around." At this time, Zhou Xingjin had to give in. His face was livid and his teeth were almost broken. "As long as you let young Master Zhuang go, everything is negotiable." "Oh, let's keep him alive first," Lin Sun said casually. He looked at Qin Xing on the other side and smiled. "Have you seen enough? Let's get started." Qin Xing trembled all over. At this moment, the fighting intent in his heart had long been washed away and replaced by a sense of fear. He dared not fight again. Zhuang was a powerful figure who could compete with him, but now he was defeated by Lin Sun with one punch. No matter how conceited Qin Xing was, he knew that he could not be Lin Sun's opponent even if he risked his life. However, just when he wanted to retreat, he saw Lin Sun's figure flashed and rushed to him. "Come on, let's fight. Don't you want to defeat me and become famous? I'll give you a chance." With a loud shout, Lin Sun's figure rose into the air like an ice dragon and suddenly arrived. His fist force was like a landslide and a tsunami, rumbling and crushing the void. "How dare you!" Qin Xing was shocked and angry. He originally wanted to retreat, but Lin Sun took the initiative to rush out and capture him, which made him so angry that his lungs were about to explode. It was too arrogant. This guy didn't take him seriously at all. For a split second, Qin Xing really wanted to fight with everything he had. But in the end, out of instinct, he chose to avoid the attack. Whoosh! His figure flashed and rushed to the Qin clansman at high speed. But it was obvious that Lin Sun had been guarding against all this. He moved with ice dragon steps and stood in front of Qin Xing like a ghost. "Get out of my way!" Qin Xing roared. Golden light surged all over his body, and he exerted all his strength to shake Lin Sun back. He used the secret ancestral method, Golden Bone Dharma Body, and his figure seemed to be cast in gold, with a majestic momentum. He moved horizontally like a golden mountain, crushing the void and oppressing the airflow. His momentum was extremely terrifying. However, Lin Sun's fist was invincible. It smashed the golden light all over Qin Xing's body, and the horrible fist force shook him out of control and made him fly out directly. All the people present felt numb and opened their eyes wide. Even Qin Xing was defeated in one blow. What kind of punching skill was this? It was too amazing. With a plop, Qin Xing fell in front of Lin Zhong. Lin Zhong caught him in his hands and imprisoned him. "Little bastard, I'll kill you." With a bang, Qinen, a strong practitioner in Tao Insight Realm, attacked. His figure was incredibly fast, and he suddenly came to Lin Sun. He wanted to capture Lin Sun, reverse the situation, and save Qin Xing. However, although Qinen was fast, there was someone faster than him. Whoosh! A majestic figure stood in front of Lin Sun, and his palm and fingers roared. With a loud bang, Qinen was shaken back severely. It was Zhu Laosan. Although he stood there indifferently before, he always paid attention to the situation. At this time, he attacked without Lin Sun's command. He defeated Qin in one fell swoop. Taking advantage of this opportunity, Lin Sun flashed back to Lin Zhong's side safely. "Little bastard! Let go of my young master!" The people of Qin family also roared angrily. All this happened too fast. Who could imagine that not only Zhuoyang was defeated, but also Qin Xing couldn't resist Lin Sun's one move? It was really incredible. The two famous talents of the young generation in the Forbidden City were easily suppressed in a twinkling of an eye. The power Lin Sun showed made the practitioners of Zhuo and Qin families have no time to react. It was too fast. Now, both Zhuoyang and Qin Xing were captured, which made the people of Zhuo and Qin families afraid to take action. They could only curse and threaten angrily. "Lin Sun, you are courting death. You will bring disaster to Heart-Cleansing Peak. Puppy, I'll give you a chance to let go of my young master, and we can let bygones be bygones. Otherwise, you can't bear the consequences at all. Let them go." Those people roared angrily. Lin Sun was not in a hurry. He raised his hand and slapped Zhuoyang and Qin Xing hard on their cheek. They screamed angrily and their cheeks were red and swollen with blood. It was a shame. Being imprisoned and slapped by Lin Sun under the watchful eyes of the public, the two shivered with hatred and were about to go crazy. They were born in aristocratic families, had a high status, and were highly valued by their clans. They were respected wherever they went. How could they suffer such a blow? "You're courting death. One day I will crush your bones and scatter your ashes." "You wait, wait!" Zhuoyang and Qin Xing roared. Their clansmen were also livid with anger and their chests heaved up and down. Lin Sun had gone too far. "If you shout again, I will cripple you first and then torture you well. Don't worry, I have plenty of patience. I will definitely let you know what real torture and humiliation is." Lin Sun smiled brightly. However, his voice and smile were chilling. Zhuoyang and Qin Xing both shut up and looked at Lin Sun with resentment. In fact, they were worried that Lin Sun would do something out of line again. Young Ku, Vulture, and all the clansmen of Northlight Lin were also frightened. Lin Sun was too strong and fearless. It seemed that he would not hesitate to kill Zhuoyang and Qin Xing as long as he was willing. "What on earth do you want?" Zhuo Xingjin said coldly on the side of Zhuo family. His old face was livid and gloomy. On the other side, Qin also stood out and stared at Lin Sun with sharp eyes. "Now, you finally stop barking and are willing to listen to me?" Lin Sun turned around with a smile and glanced at the practitioners of the Zhuo and Qin families. His expression was indifferent. He looked fearless and at ease. But the more he acted like this, the more chilled those practitioners were. This boy was too evil. He didn't play by common sense at all. If it were other practitioners, who dared to treat Zhuo family and Qin family like this? But Lin Sun did it, and he was fearless and unscrupulous. This made them finally understand why Lin Sun dared to kill Hua Wuyo at all costs, and why he dared to force Marquis Lingtian to kneel in the depths of the imperial palace. This guy was simply a monster. He despised the rules, ignored threats, ignored the consequences, and was not afraid of threats. "Come on, put forward your conditions. Our patience is limited." Taking a deep breath, Zhuo Xingjin said word by word with cold eyes. The audience was silent. All eyes fell on Lin Sun. "If I ask all the clansmen of Zhuo and Qin family to commit suicide, will you agree?" Lin Sun asked with a smile. "Lin Sun, let me remind you for the last time. Don't make a mistake." Blue veins stood out on Zhuo Xingjin's forehead, and his face was extremely gloomy. He almost couldn't bear the killing intent and anger in his heart. The others present were the same. Stimulated by Lin Sun's arrogant words, their faces were livid and gloomy. For a while, the whole world was filled with killing intent. Lin Sun didn't seem to feel the change of the atmosphere. He said with a smile, "Of course, I know you won't agree, so I have no conditions. I just want these two childs to stay in Heart-Cleansing Peak for a few days. As for when to let them go, it depends on my mood. Chapter 479. In the end, the people of Zhou clan and Qin clan left with hatred. They had no choice. Zhuoyang and Qin Xing were too important. They were the direct descendants of Zhou clan. Now, they were captured and brought back to Heart Cleansing Peak. They could only return to their clan first, report the matter, and then listen to the decision of the big shots. On Heart Cleansing Peak, the young people were cheering and excited. Some time ago, the enemy blocked the gate of Heart Cleansing Peak, provoking and humiliating them frequently, which made them aggrieved and angry. They could only grit their teeth and bear it. Yet today, Lin Sun had come out from his seclusion like a god of death. He'd forcefully crushed Lin Ji and a few dozen others, and then he'd captured Zhuoyang and Qin Xing in one go. His straightforward and domineering methods made those young people shout with delight, and it was equivalent to helping them vent their anger. Only some big shots were worried. They knew that they might be happy now, but the situation of Heart Cleansing Peak had become dangerous and serious. Heart Cleansing Hall Yongku, Vulture, Lin Zhong, Zhu Laosan and a group of high-level people from Northlight Lin gathered here at this time. Alas, it's a little troublesome. We detained Zhuoyang and Qin Xing. They are doomed to not give up. A middle-aged man from Northlight Lin sighed softly. Lin Ji died tragically and all the practitioners around her were killed. If the three branches of Westbrook, Floating Cloud and Flying Peak know it, the consequences will be unimaginable. What should we do? Lin Sun is still too impulsive. As the saying goes, a little impatience will spoil a great plan. What he did is tantamount to piercing the sky. Those big shots of Northlight Lin also spoke one after another with a worried and heavy look on their faces. Yongku, Vulture, Lin Zhong and Zhu Laosan were all silent. However, they all knew that these people of Northlight Lin were obviously dissatisfied with Lin Sun's practice and were complaining. The most serious thing is that Lin Sun offended the royal forces and some high-level people of the empire at the birthday party of the Empress. Now we have completely fallen out with the Zhou and Qin families. This situation is too serious. If we are not careful, we will end up in pieces. A man with long black hair and a dignified bearing said. His name was Lin Huiran. He was the younger brother of Lin Huiyuan, the leader of Northlight Lin. He had always been prestigious. Now he was arranged to manage the affairs of Northlight Lin on Heart Cleansing Peak. What should we do? The clansmen of the Northlight Lin clan sighed again. Everyone, I believe that young master is not acting on impulse. Perhaps he has other intentions that we are unaware of. Lin Zhong could not help but ask. Another motive? Lin Huiran was stunned and looked at Vulture. Vulture no longer kept silent and said calmly, Lin Sun will come later. We'll know once we ask them. Humph. He has just come out of seclusion and doesn't understand the situation, yet he has already caused so much trouble. How could he have any plans? In my opinion, Lin Sun is just fooling around. Someone snorted coldly. It was a white-haired old man named Lin Zifang. He was old and could be regarded as an elder of Northlight Lin. Although his cultivation was only at Sea Spirit Realm, he was very qualified. Lin Zhong, Vulture and the others frowned when they saw him scolding and criticizing Lin Sun, but they didn't refute him in the end. In my opinion, when Lin Sun comes later, we must give him a good beating. If he continues to make trouble like this, Heart Cleansing Peak will fall sooner or later. Lin Zifang said sternly. Obviously, he was extremely dissatisfied with Lin Sun's behavior. This, Lin Zhong said, it doesn't seem right, does it? Lin Zifang's face darkened. Lin Zhong, you are also an elder of Lin family. Don't you know the current situation? Lin Sun is fooling around like this, but you still want to defend him. What's the difference between you and harming him? Before the others could speak, Lin Zifang said angrily, if we had known that this boy was useless, Northlight Lin would never have supported him. But now, because of his mistake, Northlight Lin is implicated. As soon as this remark came out, The atmosphere in the hall suddenly became tense. Lin Huiyuan and other clansmen of Northlight Lin had different expressions in their eyes. Young Ku, Vulture and Lin Zhong frowned at the same time. They didn't expect that Lin Zifang would say such words at such a critical moment. When heart-cleansing peak rose, you moved back happily. Now, just because something bad happened, you complain like this. Don't you think it's too much? Young Ku couldn't help saying coldly. How dare you? How can you, an outsider, intervene in the internal affairs of Lin family? Lin Zifang scolded harshly. Young Ku, don't say more. Vulture tried to dissuade him. In the past, Young Ku would definitely listen to Vulture. But today, she couldn't stand it anymore. Lin Zifang took advantage of his seniority. When he encountered something, he didn't think about how to solve it. Instead, he just blamed and blamed Lin Sun. You still know that this is your Lin family's business? But I don't see that you really regard Lin family as the master of Lin family. Young Ku retorted coldly. Lin Zifang's face turned livid with anger. Little girl, how dare you talk to me like this? Believe it or not, I will expel you from Heart-Cleansing Peak immediately. Expel me? A cold smile appeared on Young Ku's lips. However, when she was about to say something, she was stopped by Vulture. Don't argue, but Lin Zifang seemed to be extremely tough at this moment. Before Vulture finished, he interrupted in a deep voice. Heart-Cleansing Peak is passed down by the ancestors of Lin family. It's not your territory. If you don't apologize to me today, you will immediately get out of Heart-Cleansing Peak. As soon as this was said, Vulture's face became indifferent. Young Ku's eyes turned cold. Lin Zhong's eyebrows showed a touch of anger. The atmosphere in the hall suddenly became extremely tense. Sixth uncle, don't be angry. Young Ku was invited by Lin Sun. She has done a lot for Heart-Cleansing Peak. Lin Huiran was keenly aware of the change in the atmosphere and persuaded. He knew very well that Young Ku's status in Heart-Cleansing Peak was very important, which was no less than that of Vulture and Lin Zhong. Lin Zifang looked as if he would not let the matter rest. He sneered, in that case, shouldn't this old man apologize to her? I don't think Lin Sun dares to make me do this. Everyone looked at each other. At this time, Lin Sun's voice sounded in the hall. Sorry, I'm afraid I'll let you down. With the voice, Lin Sun walked out from one side of the hall. As soon as he appeared, a pair of black eyes swept coldly to Lin Zifang. You keep saying that you want to teach me a lesson. You said that I implicated Northlight Lin. Now you want to expel my people. Who gave you the courage to do this? Suddenly, everyone was shocked. Obviously, Lin Sun had heard the dialogue just now. Otherwise, his words would not be so tough and coercive. According to the seniority, Lin Sun should call Lin Zifang great uncle. But the relationship was a little distant. Now, Lin Sun scolded and questioned Lin Zifang in front of everyone. If this was seen by others, it would be a little disrespectful. Are you talking to me? Sure enough, Lin Zifang was so angry that he couldn't believe his ears. You heard me right. I'm talking about you. Why? Is it fun to take advantage of your seniority? Lin Sun said coldly. There was a kind of unspeakable disgust in his heart. Lin Zifang, as an elder, didn't think about how to solve the problem. Instead, he jumped out to make trouble. How could Lin Sun respect him? You said I take advantage of my seniority? Lin Zifang trembled all over. Obviously, he was furious. In his view, Lin Sun was just a junior. But Lin Sun humiliated him in public, which was treason. Others were also shocked. Lin Sun was too domineering. According to the etiquette of the clan, the most taboo was to offend one's superiors. If it was spread out, he would become a big laughingstock. Lin Sun, that's enough. Let's forget about it. Vulture said. Yeah, let's all take a step back. Don't be laughed at by others. Others also spoke. Impossible. Lin Zifang roared. In front of so many people, Lin Sun, a junior, embarrassed him. How could he bear it? Even when your grandfather was alive, he didn't dare to treat me like this. You're just a kid, but you disregard the etiquette and offend your superiors. If you don't kneel down to apologize and punish me, I will never forgive you." He stood up angrily, and his saliva almost sprayed on Lin Sun's face. Lin Sun looked at Lin Zifang coldly. Looking at the old guy who didn't know when to retreat, he finally took a deep breath and said, "Grandad Zhong, take him to the ancestral land of heart-cleansing peak for self-reflection." As soon as his words came out, all the people present were shocked. Lin Sun didn't intend to argue at all. He just wanted to imprison Lin Zifang directly. "Lin Sun, it's not good to do this, is it?" Lin Huiran frowned. Other clansmen of Northlight Lin were also shocked. In their view, Lin Sun's action was no different from treason. Wasn't he worried about being cursed? "Young master, this," Lin Zhong couldn't help but worry. "Go." Lin Sun spat out a word softly. His attitude was decisive and indisputable. "You, how dare you? You're betraying your master. That's treason." Lin Zifang was so angry that his eyes almost popped out. He roared. But deep in his heart, he was already a little frightened. At this time, Lin Zhong stepped forward. An invisible force gushed out and imprisoned Lin Zifang in an instant. Then Lin Zhong invited him out. "Lin Sun, you." Lin Huiran couldn't bear it at this time. He stood up angrily. Lin Zifang was from Northlight Lin. Lin Sun's action was no different from slapping their faces. "I will apologize to Lin family when I solve the internal and external problems of Lin family. But now, whoever dares to disturb heart-cleansing peak will be severely punished." Lin Sun's expression was indifferent, with a kind of compelling majesty. "Now the situation is full of internal and external problems. We should work together to deal with the external problems." Vulture said in a warm voice, "I believe you don't want to see anything happen to heart-cleansing peak, do you?" "Alas." Lin Huiran sighed and sat down again. His expression was gloomy. Other clansmen of Northlight Lin also looked gloomy. Lin Sun's strength and ruthlessness were beyond all their expectations. Chapter 480. The clansmen of Northlight Lin didn't stay for a long time. They left under the leadership of Lin Huiran. It seemed that they knew it was meaningless to stay any longer. Lin Sun didn't ask them to stay. He watched them leave and said, "Grandad Zhong, keep an eye on these guys for me in the next period of time. As long as you find any abnormality, capture them immediately." Lin Zhong nodded. He also knew that the situation of heart-cleansing peak was extremely dangerous at present. If the internal stability couldn't be maintained, the consequences would be absolutely serious. "Lin Sun, what's your plan?" Vulture asked. "From today on, heart-cleansing peak will be closed. You can stay here for a while and live a secluded life. As for the outside affairs, I'll solve them alone." Lin Sun looked indifferent. It was obvious that he had already thought it over. His black eyes were clear and his tone was calm. "You alone?" Vulture, Young Ku and Lin Zhong were all surprised. Even Zhu Laosan, who had been silent, couldn't help looking at Lin Sun. They all knew that if Lin Sun did this, it meant that he would fight against the two top forces of Zhua and Qin alone, as well as the three collateral forces of Westbrook, Floating Cloud and Flying Peak. Could Lin Sun do it? Even Vulture couldn't help but doubt that it was not as simple as he said. In the end, Lin Sun didn't disclose the reason for his decision because he didn't want them to worry. Although Vulture and others were surprised, they could see that Lin Sun was determined and finally agreed. On the same day, Lin Sun left Heart-Cleansing Peak accompanied by Zhu Laosan and Lin Zhong. It was also on this day that Heart-Cleansing Peak was completely closed and isolated from the outside world. As one of the 72 peaks of aristocratic families, Heart-Cleansing Peak was also protected by a mysterious formation. Even if a life-death realm king came, it would be difficult to break in. Therefore, Lin Sun didn't worry that Zhua and Qin Xing could attack Heart-Cleansing Peak for revenge. What's more, now that Zhuayang and Qin Xing were detained on Heart-Cleansing Peak, They had to weigh the consequences if they wanted to retaliate. "Young master, are you going to Green Deer School for help?" Lin Zhong suddenly asked in the chariot. "It's better to rely on myself than others." Lin Sun shook his head with deep eyes and said indifferently, "Grandad Zhong, do you believe that it won't be long before many people come to help me?" Lin Zhong was shocked. Staring at Lin Sun's handsome face, he said firmly after a long time, "I believe you." Lin Sun was speechless. "Grandad Zhong, don't you doubt it?" Lin Zhong said with a simple and honest smile, "Young master, you have never made a wrong decision." Speaking of this, he hesitated for a moment and said, "Young master, no matter what happens, even if heart-cleansing peak is lost in the end, you must live well." Lin Sun nodded and closed his eyes, lost in thought. As early as the birthday banquet of the current empress, Zhao Tailai, the behind-the-scenes owner of the Tianwu Arena, had specially looked for him and told him some extremely secretive things. 5 years. Within 5 years, the mysterious figure in the palace could guarantee that Yun Qingbai of the Heavenly Sword sect would not appear. So far, Lin Sun still clearly remembered what Zhao Tailai said at that time: "You can make as much noise as you want, especially in Green Deer School. It's better to make the dean of Green Deer School pay attention to you, which is good for your situation. The Empire will not ignore the real talent. The premise is that you have to have the strength worthy of the Empire's attention. The more excellent you are, the more valuable you will be to the Empire. When a disaster comes one day, the Empire will leave a way for you." These words were extremely simple and easy to understand. This was also the reason why Lin Sun dared to face all the crises alone this time. However, Lin Sun would not pin all his hopes on others. He had his own arrangements and plans. As he said to Lin Zhong before, it was better to rely on himself than others. When he was strong enough, who dared to act wildly in the world? After a trip to the ancient spirit world, Lin Sun's vision was broadened. He saw a broader and more vast world. It also made him understand that compared with the ancient Desolation Realm, the vast Xiao Empire could only be regarded as a vassal land. If he couldn't even solve these problems in front of him, how could he go to the ancient Desolation Realm and avenge his dead relatives? Suddenly, Lin Sun opened his eyes and said, "Grandad Zhong, remember to send a message to the 3 collateral forces of Westbrook, Floating Cloud and Flying Peak. The 3-year agreement I promised them remains unchanged. However, since they have chosen to betray Heart-Cleansing Peak and cooperate with Zhua and Qin, they must pay a greater price." Speaking of this, Lin Sun's black eyes flashed with coldness. "Tell them to cut off the relationship with Zhua and Qin within half a year. Otherwise, I will tell them how heavy the price of betrayal is." Lin Zhong was shocked and nodded solemnly. Green Deer School. It was noon and the students had finished their classes. In the quiet and ancient campus, there were energetic young boys and girls everywhere. They were wearing the same school uniform. They were young, energetic, and full of energy. They were like the rising sun with a bright future ahead of them. A chariot stopped. Lin Sun got off and waved goodbye to Lin Zhong and Zhu Laosan. Then he turned around, took a deep breath and stepped into Green Deer School, which he hadn't seen for nearly 2 months. "Hey, that person looks familiar." Lin Sun. "No, it's Coach Lin. He finally showed up." When Lin Sun appeared, he was quickly recognized and caused an uproar. Very quickly, this news spread to the Hidden Dragon Institute, the Martial Dao Courtyard, the True Martial Courtyard, the Spiritual Inscription Courtyard, and the Divine Strategy Courtyard at an inconceivable speed. What? How dare Lin Sun show up? Doesn't he know how many people want to defeat him and wash away the shame of the imperial family? I remember that Heart-Cleansing Peak has been besieged by Zhua and Qin and is in a precarious situation. Why does Lin Sun come to Green Deer School? Is he here for help? Lin Sun's return made Green Deer School lively. People were talking about him everywhere. It couldn't be helped. Lin Sun was too famous. He was a legendary young talent. He made one sensational thing after another in the Forbidden City. Each thing could cause a great disturbance and be discussed by countless people. Look at his title, the Master of Heart-Cleansing Peak, the leader of Lin family, the young spiritual tattoo master jointly hired by Green Deer School, Academy of Spiritual Implements of the Empire and the headquarters of the Commune of Spiritual Tattooists. Who could imagine that he was just a 16-year-old boy under these glorious halos? If the sensational things he had done were counted in detail, it would be even more amazing. He suppressed Huoyo, beat the descendants of the Song family, caused the vision of 9 dragons chant, and repaired the most precious treasure of the Empress, Sword of Tianqi. Chu Haidong, one of the 3 families of spiritual tattoos, was labeled as a fool and became the laughing stock of the Forbidden City because he offended Lin Sun. Chu Shanha, Chu Haidong's elder and the deputy dean of the Yard of Spiritual Tattoos, wanted to deal with Lin Sun, but he was defeated and had to live in seclusion for the time being. It was said that the birth of Talent's song, which was widely spread in the world now, had a lot to do with Lin Sun. It could be said that Lin Sun was a monster in the past, which brought too much uproar and shock to the Forbidden City. But the good times didn't last long. At the birthday party of the Empress some time ago, he acted recklessly. He defeated Qi Songfeng and forced Marquis Lingtian to kneel down. He offended the royal family of the Empire and the big shots of the upper class of the Empire. In the end, he lost a rare opportunity to go to the mysterious territory for cultivation. It was also because of this incident that the Forbidden City was in a state of shock. Many people thought that Lin Sun was doomed to die and his fate was worrying. Lin Sun's closed-door practice in heart-cleansing peak was also considered by most people in the outside world. Lin Sun knew that a disaster was coming, so he had to hide. Now, after a lapse of 2 months, Lin Sun, a controversial figure, suddenly appeared in Green Deer School, which naturally attracted all kinds of attention. This guy still dares to show up. Now there will be a good show. I remember that Zui Yujing, who ranked 3rd on the Sea Spirit Gold list, threatened to make Lin Sun bear the consequences if he dared to show up. Not only Zui Yujing, I heard that those geniuses in martial arts yard are waiting to teach Lin Sun a lesson to wash away the shame of the royal family of the empire. Alas, it's a pity that Lin Sun, such an outstanding talent, caused so many troubles. On this day, Lin Sun set off a storm in Green Deer School because of his appearance. At this time, Lin Sun was talking with Shen Tu. Lin Sun, don't worry. This is Green Deer School. No one dares to mess around here. You just need to focus on teaching and don't pay attention to the outside world, Shen Tua said in a warm voice. He was very pleased to see Lin Sun return. Lin Sun couldn't help feeling warm in his heart. He originally thought that some things in the outside world would make Shen Tua have some opinions on him. Obviously, he was worried too much. Even knowing that Lin Sun had offended the royal family and a group of nobles, Shen Tua dared to guarantee his safety. From this, it could be seen that Green Deer School was indeed powerful. However, this time Lin Sun did not come to Green Deer School to take refuge. I want to borrow the 9th floor of the spiritual tower for a period of time. Lin Sun stated his purpose. Sure. Shen Tua agreed without hesitation. Then he seemed to think of something. His eyes suddenly widened and he exclaimed, "What did you just say? Use the 9th floor of the spiritual tower?" Lin Sun nodded. Shen Tu looked at Lin Sun incredulously and said, "You want to refine a suit of spiritual tattoos, don't you?" The 9th floor of the spiritual tower was specially prepared for refining a suit of spiritual tattoos. This was well known in Green Deer School. Naturally, Shen Tua was shocked that Lin Sun asked to borrow the 9th floor of the spiritual tower. Yes. Lin Sun had nothing to hide, so he nodded frankly. After getting a positive answer, Shen Tua, a senior spiritual tattooist, couldn't calm down at all. His lips were trembling. If he remembered correctly, Lin Sun seemed to be only 16 years old this year, and he had just become a spiritual tattooist less than half a year ago. But now he said he wanted to refine a suit of spiritual tattoos. This was simply